Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting adventure. Today, Audio Novel presents Unlimited Blind Box at HxH by Zero Stolen Dream Zero. And if you're looking for more amazing stories, don't forget to check out my Patreon page. Your support helps turn incredible tales like this one into fully immersive audiobooks. Join me on this journey, and together, we can bring more stories to life. Thank you for being part of the adventure. Let's begin. Chapter 81, You Can Call Me Spider. Don't go too far, rabid dog. The man with parted hair reminded him, if you kill too many people at once, it's easy to scare away the people below. I know, delicious prey should be enjoyed slowly. Rabid dog showed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth, showing a mouthful of sharp fangs. Under the strengthening of his nen ability, his entire jaw suddenly became a structure like a canine creature. His saliva sizzled, his teeth gleamed coldly, and the powerful bite force he was given seemed to be able to bite everything in front of him. Rabid dog, and owl. Lon recognized the two people in front of him at a glance. They were all members of the shadow beasts who would appear in the future. Among them, Owl was the boss of the shadow beasts. So he is here to preside over this selection. It seems that the one who will be promoted this time is Rabid dog. Lon saw two people he knew again, and he was sure that this time, the selection from below was basically fruitless. Yes, the core troops of the 10 Mafia Dons must be the people under the control of the 10 Mafia Dons. How could they be handed over to the guys who were promoted and selected from below? Although they only appeared in half an episode and were just a foil for Phantom Troop, they still have blind boxes, right? Lon looked at the blind boxes emitting white light beside the two people and put them away casually. Although it was just an ordinary blind box, which is the lowest level, it was better than nothing. Not to mention that later, during the famous scene against Uvagin, there would be better blind lights. While Lon was putting away the blind box, Rabid dog had already moved in front of him. Whoosh! His body was bent down, and he kicked with his legs hard on the ground as if a vicious dog pounced on its food as he quickly attacked Lon. Go to hell. At this moment, Rabid dog only had Lan's neck in his eyes. He wanted to tear the opponent's throat and then pour the neurotoxin into it. The last toy died too quickly. This time, he wanted to play with it properly. However, just when everything was going smoothly, he was about to approach the opponent and follow his script. It seemed that something was blocking him, causing him to stop abruptly. Rabid dog tried to twist his body hard but found that it did not move at all. It was as if he was firmly restrained by something. Is this thread? On the contrary, all next to him saw it clearly. In his field of vision, Rabid dog was tied up by the silk thread released from the opponent's hand. Damn, how can a thread be so hard? Rabid dog was furious and wanted to break free, but no matter how he struggled, he couldn't tear it apart. He even tried to bite it with his teeth but couldn't tear it. Is he a manipulator? Rabid dog gritted his teeth in hatred. I got caught by accident. The manipulator type has always been the most hated type by the straightforward enhancer type. In some cases, their trouble level is even higher than that of the emitter type. Because once the conditions for the manipulator are met by the other party, it will be almost unsolvable. Just like Rabid dog's situation just now. You have met the conditions for tying me up so you can restrain all my actions. Rabid dog was very unwilling, and there was a ferocious look on his face. Let go if you have the ability, and let's start a one-on-one battle. What disgusting tricks are you playing? Lon ignored him and looked at him up and down with eyes like he was observing an experimental subject. After feeling this kind of gaze, Rabid dog felt even more insulted. Just when he wanted to rage and curse again. Can you handle it, Rabid dog? Owl, who was also observing carefully beside him, finally couldn't help but ask. It seems that you are very uncomfortable. Owl pushed his glasses but still couldn't cover the white pupils that were as big as the moon. Nonsense. If he hadn't seen that he hadn't officially joined the Shadow Beasts organization, Rabid dog would have spit 2 mouthfuls of poisonous saliva on his face. Do you need help? Owl's white pupils were covered with a ball of air, and under the effect of Gyo, he could better perceive various situations in time. The nen injected into the other party's thread seems to be really strong. His expression was still calm, but his tone was gradually becoming serious. Of course. Hurry up and interrupt the conditions of his nen ability. Rabid Dog was still howling, but Owl carefully identified it. It can't be directly determined that the other party is a manipulator. He began to mutter, apart from the most unknown specialization, this may also be a thread control through manipulation or a thread condensed by conjurer from the air. It is also possible that it is another transmuter or enhancer, and he simply infused his nen into the thin thread to strengthen the binding strength of the thin thread. Don't joke. Hearing this, Rabid Dog couldn't help it anymore. According to what you said, the guy in front of me is actually simply infusing his nen into the thread, and then generating a force that even I, an enhancer, can't break free. Well, it's really unlikely. Owl himself also had some doubts. Of course, I just said there is such a possibility, and for weapons like the thread, maybe he is emitter. Stop standing there, come with me and kill him first. Got it. Owl responded casually and then stretched out his arms. Whoosh. Huge black clothes appeared in his hand. Although I don't know who you are yet. The cloth that materialized from his nen ability fluttered in the wind in his hand, and Owl stared at Lon with wide eyes, but after I control you, I'll interrogate you thoroughly. Owl's nen is conjurer type with the nen ability of fun cloth. He can shrink all the objects covered with a cloth and store them in something similar to storage space. It was with this ability that he moved all the auction items in the vault before the underground auction in Yorna City was attacked by Phantom Troop. It can also wrap the enemy to easily capture them, and then restore it to its original state by unwrapping the clothes. Once the conditions are met and the person is wrapped up, even the most powerful masters will be trapped and unable to escape. The moment he took out the bag, he was ready to capture Lon alive. However, when he was about to take a step forward to take action. Don't make a noise, I'm thinking. After Lan's pondering words fell, Owl felt that he could not move forward. I am also bound. The huge white eyes shrank for the first time. When? I have been using Gyo all the time, it is impossible for me not to notice the threads around. Owl tried to struggle while feeling extremely puzzled. Indeed, if there are traces of Nen, then Gyo will definitely detect it. But what if Nen is not attached to the threads? The fine thread material of Crosstail in Lan's hand has extraordinary toughness and strength without any need for Nen. The Nen wrapped around the silk thread that imprisoned Rabid Dog at the beginning also played a confusing role. Therefore, Owl was caught off guard and was also caught. He had always used Nen's ability to bind and trap others, and now it was finally his turn to be subdued. Who are you? Owl began to try to change his strategy. Which family are you from? I am from the Shiyu family. Lon casually made up a mafia family and name in the Kaken Empire. You can call me Spider. Chapter 82, as gloves, they will definitely give them some benefits. Spider. Is that why you play with thread? Owl paused. If it's Spider, there is an organization called Phantom Troop outside similar to Spider. Are you a member of Phantom Troop? Lon was too lazy to answer him and had already walked to Rabid Dog's body. He began to study closely whether the dog-like features on its body were subhuman characteristics. At the same time, he saw Rabid Dog open its mouth, wondering if it was going to curse or spit at him. Lon knocked Rabid Dog unconscious with a decisive punch. Then he took out EQS picking tools from the blind box he got from Izanabe during the second round of the Hunter exam and started cutting on some of Rabid Dog's fangs. In Owl's eyes, Lan's silence represented silent acquiescence. Even if he is not a member of the Phantom Troop, he is definitely related to that group of people. Watching Lon do whatever he wants to Rabid Dog, especially using that strange tool. Such a weird method can only be thought of by those murderers. After having the first subjective impression in his mind, Owl also began to keep silent. He began to silently plan to remember all of Lan's movements, behaviors, and features, and then analyze them carefully afterwards. However, just as he was trying to close his huge eyes. Bang! A heavy punch hit him on the forehead, causing him to fall limply. How can you fall unconscious? Lon rubbed his fist and was a little unhappy. I just knocked him out, but I didn't knock you out, right? For Owl's inconsiderate behavior, Lon gave him a bad fist. This was completely different from the cooperative look he showed after being caught by Phantom Troop. Of course, it could also be that Phaeton's interrogation played a very good role in it. You should be thankful that you are the most human-like one among the shadow beasts. Lon didn't even look at Owl but just continued taking some parts of Rabid Dog's body. Otherwise, you will end up like this Rabid Dog. Lon, who suspected that the shadow beasts were related to the subhuman race, took some of hair and teeth from rabid dog and drew a few tubes of blood. As for Owl, he looks like an ordinary human being and has nothing to do with the subhuman race. The only pity is that the worm, who was described by the Melody as having the most incredible heartbeat, was not able to come to the scene. Otherwise, maybe something could be found in him. After taking what he wanted and confirming that the person from the Adra family was tortured to death by rabid dog, this trip can be regarded as a perfect completion of his purpose. But studying these things is not my strong point. This item from rabid dog was obtained, but how understanding the inner principles would require the help of professionals. As for the Dark Continent, it seems that there is only one person who has the most say, the most professional, and the least hidden dangers. Lon thought about it, found a quiet place, took out his mobile phone, and dialed a number. Beep beep beep, click. Wow, it's rare that you would think of calling an old man like me. Netaro's hearty laughter came immediately after the call was connected. But this also shows that the matter you came to see me for must not be a trivial matter. Tell me, you didn't even call me after causing a scene in the Heavens Arena and being publicly investigated by them. What other troubles have you encountered now? As an official guest of the Heavens Arena, Netero will attend every Battle Olympia. Naturally, he knows more about what happened in the Heavens Arena. I want to find an expert who can study human body changes. Lon directly explained the purpose of the call. Study the human body. Expert. This answer made Netero a little surprised, but he quickly reacted. I remember that your Nostrade family likes to collect human organs, right? Why? Do you also have this hobby? I'm not that perverted. Lon ignored the old man's deliberate ridicule. I got some teeth, hair and blood of strange humans, and I want to analyze them to see what kind of object are contained in them. Just analyze those things. Then can't you just find a laboratory in any big city? With the wealth you got from the Heavens Arena, this should be a small problem for you, right? He is now talking about the Heavens Arena every 3 sentences. These things are a bit special, and the thing may not be convenient to show to the public. Lon said it directly, and he also knew that Netero must understand that the things he asked him to analyze must be unusual. He said that on purpose. Material that is not convenient to show to the public. The teasing tone on the other end of the phone gradually calmed down. I remember that you have a professional hunter under you. Even if it is an item with Nen, it can be tested and analyzed through some special research institute in the hunter circle. There are many hunters who like pharmacology and biology, and they basically have their own research institutes. Like Cheadle Yorkshire and Gel of the Zodiac 12. One is a triple-star disease hunter, and the other is a poison hunter. They all have their own research institutes and contracts with various cosmetic analysis businesses. Lon didn't choose these research institutes at all, but he called directly on his own phone number. That means this thing. Well, it may be related to the Dark Continent. Lon simply stopped keeping the secret and immediately told Netero about the existence of the shadow beasts and his own conjectures. He is old and wise, and has lived to such an old age, and has personally ventured into the Dark Continent once. On the matter of subhuman races, except for V5, no one should have more say than him. And when he listened carefully to Lan's story. Sure enough. On the other end of the phone, Netero also smiled with a little emotion. You still found these guys? From what you said. Lon became interested. Old man, have you known about this for a long time? Ah, this is not a secret to some people. At that moment, Netero also explained the relevant content to Lon clearly. Just as Lon had imagined before, there is a certain connection between 10 Mafia Dons and V5. In other words, V5 directly regards 10 Mafia Dons as gloves to wipe dirty things. Then, as gloves, they will definitely give them some benefits. Chapter 83, Is it Jing Freaks, the Irresponsible Father? V5 explored the Dark Continent, and although they all failed, they also brought back some things. Although there were disasters, there was also hope, as well as the subhuman race they captured. V5 has never given up their desire for the Dark Continent, and they have set their sights on the subhuman race. In their view, the subhuman race who can live on the Dark Continent has the ability to adapt to that environment. Therefore, V5 has been conducting genetic research on the subhuman race, attempting to use the genes of the subhuman race to create a group of warriors that can adapt to the Dark Continent. At present, they have barely achieved some results, and with results, they naturally have to conduct experiments. Nothing can be better than a living human being who is an end user to serve as a test subject. Netero spoke calmly about the cruel reality. Is that so? Lon also understood. V5 has never given up exploring the Dark Continent and has also set its sights on genetic warriors related to the subhuman race. Just like in the Chimera Ant's arc, Paristan used his power to transport 5,000 ant eggs that had not yet hatched. These ant eggs, which may represent the subhuman race, may play an important role in exploring the Dark Continent. V5 extracted genes from the subhumans race and developed them, then it was given to the 10 Mafia Dons as a reward. The 10 Mafia Dons then used them on the Shadow Beasts as a power enhancement. And it just so happened that the Shadow Beasts also became living test subjects, so many of them became neither human nor ghost. For example, owls and porcupines should have good abilities, or they did not have time to be experimented, so they retained more human physiological characteristics. But then again, we have known each other for less than 2 years, and you have already started researching the Dark Continent. Netero changed his tone and became cheerful again. Ah, who wouldn't want to go there and take a look? Lon smiled and responded, "Thank you for clearing my doubts, old man. In return, I will tell you a piece of news that you may not know." He asked, "Do you remember why I went to find you when we first met?" "Ah, I still have some impression. You said you were sent by Beyond Netero." "Yes, the news I want to tell you is that Beyond Netero is in the Kaken Empire in the Asian continent, and he has a deal with the king of the Kaken Empire, Zhang Lei Hui Guoro." Lon finally added, "Moreover, he has also planted an undercover agent in your hunter association." Wow, this is really shocking news. Netero smiled without taking it seriously. He has always looked at his son Beyond Netero's troubles as if it were a child playing. Whether it is cooperating with other countries or planting an undercover agent in the hunter association, it is not something that deserves too much attention for him. On the contrary, it is Lan's side. You have provided me with this information, so I will give you feedback. I will ask Beans to send you a number later. If you want to analyze and test it, just contact this guy. After that, Netero also hung up the phone directly. Soon, a message came. The phone number provided by Netero. Lon looked at the number information on the phone and remembered it firmly. Those who can be recommended by Netero are definitely not ordinary people. After all, there was a note under the message. That guy's phone is specially made. You can call him by just clicking on the dial button. You can't get through by just pressing the number normally. Lon pressed the dial button directly. Beep beep beep, click. Hello. Who is this? The voice of a middle-aged man came from the other end of the phone. I haven't seen this phone number before. Did anyone give you my phone number? The tone was a little lazy and unremarkable. Hello, my name is Lon. You were introduced by Chairman Netero. Lon was the first to introduce himself. Can you tell me your name? Chairman Netero. He actually introduced someone to me. The voice on the other end of the phone said something surprising, but the tone was very calm. My name is Jing Freaks. At the same time, in front of the Hunter Association's headquarters building. Is it really okay, Chairman? In the office, Mr. Beans, who had sent the message, was still a little hesitant. You gave Mr. Jing's phone number to Mr. Lon. Wow, isn't this just right? Netero smiled happily. Don't you think that with their temperaments and personalities, if they get together, they will definitely get along well? Beans didn't know what he was thinking, but Netero stroked his beard 3 times faster. And it will definitely be interesting, right? Mr. Beans. This last sentence is the key point, right? You just want to see the trouble that the two of them will start to make after they meet, right? With Mr. Lan's personality, if he really gets together with Mr. Jing. Mr. Beansman shuddered suddenly. Not to mention the many disturbances and influences that Mr. Jing had caused in the world before. Just recently Mr. Lon stirred up the situation in the Heavens Arena, which was enough to give headaches to the other side and shock the world. If these two people were to get together and say, hey, I have an idea. I wonder if this world can withstand the tossing of the two of them. Mr. Beans was lamenting that the future of the world was not optimistic. Back in the Gordeau Desert. After learning that the person on the other end of the phone was Jing Freaks, Lon was also a little surprised. Jing Freaks. Is it the Jing Freaks, who is a double-star ruins hunter, whose achievements are enough to become a triple-star hunter, but he didn't apply because it was too troublesome? Well, you should be talking about me. It's Jing Freaks who participated in the restoration of the Lurka ruins, established a breeding program for the two-headed wolf, developed the game Greed Island, and has outstanding achievements in many fields. Freaks. Aha, that's me. Is it the Jing Freaks who has made outstanding achievements in exploring ancient ruins in the world, has power and wealth equivalent to the president of a country, is known as one of the world's strongest Nen users with his great strength and achievements, and is also the 12 zodiac? Ah, that's me. Is it the irresponsible father, Jing Freaks, who was born on Whale Island, who became a professional hunter at the age of 12, sent his child gone back to Whale Island at the age of 2, and left him alone? I said it was me. Wait. The person on the other end of the phone suddenly reacted halfway through. It seems that he just heard something beyond his expectations. Lon repeated again, it was the unreliable father, Jing Freaks, who gave his son, Gon, to his cousin Mito to raise and then specially arranged for his apprentice Kite to go to Whale Island to tell Gon about Hunter and guide him on the hunter path. The other end of the line fell into complete silence. Then, after a while. Chapter 84, Traveling Around the Sixth Continent. No, you got the wrong person. He resolutely denied it. Just now, you said your name is Jing Freaks. You heard it wrong. I was afraid that I heard it wrong, and I confirmed it so many times afterward. Hello. Beep. There was a dead tone from the other end of the line, and it was obvious that the call was hung up. Lon just held the phone and watched calmly. After staring at it for 5 minutes. Beep. The phone in his hand suddenly rang. Click, hello. After the call was connected, a sweet and beautiful middle-aged woman's voice came from the other end. Excuse me, is this Mr. Lon, the leader of the bodyguard team of the Light Nostrade family from Meteor City, who escaped from the Heavens Arena incident? No, this is Jing Freaks. Lon replied expressionlessly, also, this voice makes me feel sick. Click. He also ends the other party's call. Sure enough, as introduced, this guy, Jing Freaks, has a very awkward personality and is a bit shy. And sometimes, he makes people feel particularly asshole. Lon put away his phone, knowing that Jing might not call him again in the short term due to his awkward personality. He also wanted to give Jing time to understand him and calm down so that communication would be much smoother. And after learning about the relationship between the subhuman race and shadow beasts, he was much less interested in them. No matter how powerful the genes of the subhuman race are, compared with Marvel's Calypso serum, Lon felt that the latter was better. It just so happens that I rarely come out for a trip, and I haven't really visited these 6 continents. In this world, there is a civilization and customs that are completely different from the previous life, and there are also all kinds of strange foods and cuisines. In the past 2 years, he was either practicing or looking for blind boxes. It is rare to have such a little time, so of course he have to travel at public expense. If you want to do it, just do it. Lon flashed and left the cliff directly. Only Rabid Dog and Owl were left lying on the ground unconscious. He did not take the lives of these 2 guys. First, the selection of shadow beasts involves the subhuman race gene experiment provided by V5. Killing them rashly may attract attention from there, and there will be investigations from the 10 Mafia Dons. Lon is staying well now with the Nostrade family, and he doesn't think about harming the boss. Second, both of them are related to a plot in the future. And the plot means that there will be a refresh of blind boxes in the future. It can be used as a usable resource and come back next year. As for the white blind boxes that appeared beside the 2 people, Lon also opened. One is DOC sunglasses obtained from Owl, and the other is braces obtained from Rabid Dog. Well, they are all ordinary items. After Lon left. Why haven't they called anyone up yet? The masters of many underworld families below waited for a long time but didn't hear any movement. According to the previous practice, one person would be called every 5 minutes on average. But now. Do you want to go up and take a look? Someone made such a suggestion, and then a group of people looked at him like a fool. Who knows if there are any changes up there? If you go up rashly, you think your life is too long, right? So, the group of guys below could only wait with their eyes wide open. Until the moon was bright and the sky was completely dark, and it was time to light torches. Everyone couldn't hold back any longer and wanted to go up and take a look. However, at this time, all of you go to hell. From the cliff, it seemed as if a werewolf suddenly pounced down, and under the full moon, it started to kill wantonly. Under those angry faces, the scene was extremely bloody for a while. That damn spider was from Phantom Troop, right? I will never be so easily fooled next time we meet. Rabid Dog harvested the lives of the people at the scene with eyes full of brutality and madness. Next time we meet, I will bite his neck with my own mouth. Puff. Soon, with blood splashing, there were no living people from the Mafia family at the scene. This group of guys who were here to die finally fell into the hands and mouth of Rabid Dog. And while he was going crazy, in a small, dense forest thousands of miles away, a bearded man with short black hedgehog hair, a white vest, with a black, belt-like band of cloth, and baggy white pants scratched his head in distress. Is the other party a troublesome guy? On Jing's mobile phone, relevant information about Lon appeared, including but not limited to his origin from Meteor City, accepting the recruitment of Light Nostrade, and becoming his guard leader. And the most important part was the two major events of beating the Examiner in the Hunter exam and the turmoil in the Heavens Arena that swept the casino. There is very little information and data about this man as if he came out of thin air. Even Jing, using his own means and channels, got the information that he was from Meteor City. But in Jing's eyes, these are not worth noting. What beat the Examiner, break into the Heavens Arena, etc., are not a big deal in his eyes. When he was young, he did something more idiotic than this. The only thing that concerned him was the place where Lon boarded the ship when he participated in the Hunter exam this year. Whale Island, and on that passenger ship. Isn't this the route he chose to participate in the Hunter exam that year? So many years have passed. Is that passenger ship still running? And Whale Island is his hometown, and besides him, his son Gon is also on the island. In addition, Lon talked about Gon, Kite, and other things on the phone just now. If Jing Freaks thinks that all this is a coincidence, then he must be really crazy. He had reason to suspect that the other party must know some inside information. What went wrong? He sat directly on the head of the huge wild boar under him. The pig with two huge spiked fangs trembled. Kite couldn't have thought of it, and he didn't know my arrangement. Jing folded his hands across his chest and crossed his legs in black leather boots. And I feel that he knows more about me than this. Is it about some strange ability? And he got my number, which was given to him by Chairman Netero. If there is something he can't figure out, Jing Freaks will not hesitate to solve it in the simplest way. He took out his phone and dialed Netero's number immediately. Beep beep beep. After a period of silence. Mr. Jing. The call was connected, but the voice on the other end was not Chairman Netero's. The chairman is currently playing dodge. Oh no, he is working. He said that if anyone comes to find him, they can leave the problem to me first, and I will report to him later. Mr. Bean said honestly. Okay. After hearing those words, Jing hung up the phone. Chapter 85, Paid Vacation and Travel at Public Expense. Just give his phone number to Lon, and then go play dodgeball. Isn't it obvious that he doesn't want to intervene in their affairs anymore, or he just watched the fun and excitement? But anyway. Jing grabbed the white towel wrapped around his head. He can be introduced to me by Chairman Netero, so there should be no problem with this person. Then he recalled the exchange with Lon just now, and his eyes paused. It's just that his words are a bit harsh. He reacted. It was fine at the beginning, but it became more and more like a joke. As for the last conversation, Jing said nonchalantly that these were child's play. His friends and partners, who made Greed Island, almost scolded him at least 2 or 3 times every day. And the scolding was definitely several times more nasty than this kind of foolishness. Jing pulled up his dark gray scarf and coughed twice while pinching his throat. I think this sound is okay. He looked puzzled. I learned it from Elena. It's quite similar, right? Achoo. Far away in the small room at the entrance of Greed Island. Elena, who acted as a commentator and explained the rules of the game to the newcomers, wiped her nose. Why do I feel that guy, Jing, is saying something bad about me behind my back again? In the following time, Jing really did not give Lon a call. On the one hand, he felt embarrassed that his arrangement of his son's career had been known to others. On the other hand, he was also thinking of finding some embarrassing things about Lon to see if he could get back on track. Lon, who was traveling on the continent, naturally didn't care. He is also called Light Nostrade. Light Nostrade was in a very good mood on the other end. The master sent by the Adra family died, and many masters from other families also died. Even through the phone, Lon could feel the other party's comfortable mood. There are other competing hostile forces, as well as the underworld families above us, and they all suffered such a loss. Of course, in order to prevent unnecessary trouble, I must also announce to the public that the people I sent out also died. Light Nostrade laughed with a little apology, so I asked Shakmono Tessino to use his hunter license to delete all your information. But Shakmono told me that it seems that someone is still looking for your information on the internet, so all your information was deleted directly, and all traces were gone. The other party must be a very powerful hacker. Do you have such a friend to help you? Friend. Help. Lon did not know such a computer expert friend. But among the people he knew, there was such a friend, and he almost guessed who it was and why. Jing Freaks has an old acquaintance named Ixchamp, who is a very powerful hacker hunter. He is also quite well known in the Hunter Association, and he once became a candidate for chairman election. In Lan's impression, he was a strange guy wearing a mask, which bears a slight resemblance to a panda bear. It have a red dot with a PE inside on the forehead, and has green ears. During the election of the chairman, he publicly stated, "For me, your reality is not reality. You can do whatever you want, it has nothing to do with me." This is a hacker hunter who truly lives in the online world. It would probably be him who deleted most of his information on the internet. And there is no need to ask, he must have been asked to help delete it. The reason is also very simple. Jing definitely doesn't want others to trace my information to Whale Island. Disrupting his arrangement for Gon is a small matter, but if he is exposed for arranging his son like that, it will lead to ridicule and mockery from his companions, which will be the most embarrassing and awkward thing for him to accept. But it's a good thing this way. Without the information, it will be more difficult for others to trace me. This is not a bad thing for him. Light Nostrade also added, "I heard that there were some problems in the selection of shadow beasts this time, which led to the death of so many people. It seems that the 10 Mafia Dons have begun to find some traces. As one of the few survivors of that selection, it is okay to clear the information so that there will be less scrutiny." Light Nostrade wisely did not ask for more details about this selection. He only knew that his goal had been achieved. And Lon also escaped unscathed, and the information was cleared, leaving no tail. This is enough. However, the investigation of the 10 Mafia Dons is at a critical juncture. In order to avoid accidents during this period, Light Nostrade said somewhat tactfully, "It is better for you not to come back so fast. Wait until this period of limelight is over, and then you can come back." Lon. He just wanted to travel, but Light Nostrade arranged it so well. What a great boss. Of course, I know this is a helpless situation because the Nostrade family is at a very important juncture. Seeing that Lon didn't speak, Light Nostrade thought he had some thoughts in his mind and immediately said, "At this juncture, there is no room for error. I have to be careful so I can only wrong you, Lon. Of course, I will reimburse you for your expenses outside." Light Nostrade promised, "As long as it is within my tolerance." It's really a vacation and reimbursement. What's the difference between this and paid vacation and public travel? I know. Lon also cooperated very well. During this period of time, I will use a new identity to travel outside. When you need me, boss, I will go back. Thank you for your hard work, Lon. Light Nostrade was very pleased with Lan's understanding and consideration. It's nothing. Castro will be in charge of the family security work. As long as the lady doesn't let strangers outside approach her, there will be basically no problem. It saves her from not being able to go out and play later. After handing over some of the guard work to Light Nostrade, Lon no longer has any pressure. I can finally relax and take a break. On a busy street in Yurna City, Lon put his mobile phone in his arms. He glanced at the flashing light next to him, then he rubbed his wrist and walked in. He wanted to feel the prosperity of this city. Chapter 86, Zoldyck family is a friendly and respectful family. Time always passes by inadvertently. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months have passed leisurely. The world will not stagnate because of the influence of one more or one less person. There was also thunder and light rain at the heavens arena. After learning that no more information about Lon could be found, no further action was taken against him. In the Zoldyck family, Illumi used the hypnotic spell to comb through everyone's information. Even the second oldest, Maluki, who was a super otaku in their family, was dragged out of the room and was carefully checked. In Illumi's words, what if that idiot Maluki accidentally leaked it online? This caused the second oldest, Maluki, to be strongly dissatisfied and protest. Why don't you say that it might be the information that was obtained by someone when Killua was on a mission outside? Maluki said very clearly, you know, Killua has the best relationship with Aluka. I have already planted the hypnotic spell in Killua's head. Illumi was blatantly biased. As long as he has any brain invasion, I will know it as soon as possible. But I remember there is also the ability to know the memory content of the other party's mind by touching the other party's body. Why don't you say that Killua might have encountered this? It's very simple. I also sealed his memory of Aluka. He won't remember any of her information. You can give Killua a seal, maybe someone else can also bypass your seal and directly detect it. After the mind sealed Maluki's mouth, he could no longer make any comments. Well, the Zoldyck family is so friendly and respectful. There was no movement from the underworld family. After the 10 Mafia Dons investigated their own forces to no avail, they gradually returned to normal. On the contrary, the shadow beasts seemed to be still not quiet, as if they were looking for the guy part of the phantom troop. In short, the world is still peaceful where it should be and turbulent where it should be turbulent. It's like every place has its own way of survival without affecting or interfering with each other. For example, the annual Green Leaf Crab Fishing Festival was held on the shore of Lake Machilia. This month is when the green leaf crabs are the fattest. The green leaf crabs on the shore of Lake Machilia are particularly famous, just like the king crab on Earth. Many gourmet hunters rushed here for the most plump crab meat and crab roe. In order to promote and expand its influence, the town of Machilia specially established this fishing festival, just to let those gourmet hunters use their own skills to fish out the fattest green leaf crabs. Then, after their promotion, the residents will have a harvest season. Gourmet hunters got the delicious food they wanted, and people outside tasted the plumpness of green leaf crabs. The popularity of Machilia town spread, and the residents had a good income. It can be said that it was a win-win situation for all parties. This year's Green Leaf Crab Fishing Festival was no exception. It was held very successfully and attracted many merchants to buy. Not to mention that there were many gourmet hunters and gourmets who loved food. The latter were especially pure, they just wanted such a delicious taste. Therefore, you can even see gourmet hunters panting and coming late on the last night of the fishing festival. Huff. The heavy breathing sounded as if there was a blower in the chest cavity instead of the lungs. I'm still a little late. An extremely large gourmet hunter, who wore a green shirt and a big belly, came and saw the closed fishing grounds and couldn't help but wail. If I had known, I would not have eaten so much, so I wouldn't have overslept. But the greatest respect for food is to eat it all, not to mention that it's my favorite roasted whole pig. The huge gourmet hunters looked around. The fishing ground is closed, but there should still be green leaf crabs here that haven't been taken away. Every year, I remember that there are still many gourmet hunters and gourmets who are not in a hurry to leave and stay here to taste carefully. He did as he thought, and immediately dragged his huge body and ran towards the nearby town of Machilia. Every time he took a step, the ground shook loudly. People could hear the movement here from a considerable distance. It's Buhara. The gourmet hunters who had not left the town looked over, and their expression changed immediately. I was wondering why I didn't see him. Did he come too late? That guy is a glutton. I haven't forgotten that last year he ate a mountain of green leaf crabs by himself. That's right. I came a little late, so the remaining green leaf crabs were all smaller. The fat ones were all eaten by this guy. Go, don't let him see them. Otherwise, we won't be able to keep the green leaf crabs in our hands. When a group of gourmet hunters saw Buhara coming, they shouted and packed their green leaf crabs. Before Buhara arrived, they all ran away. So, when Buhara arrived in the town, exhausted, there was no more. No more. He asked several hotels and restaurants one by one, and the answers he got made him feel desperate. Yes, sir, we have sold out the green leaf crab. The lady at the front desk said apologetically. Refrigerated ones are also fine, and there are vacuum-packed ones. I am not picky. Bohara is still making the last-ditch effort. For example, the green leaf crab that has just been refrigerated can still retain some freshness. It tastes better than the ones that are circulated in the market. The refrigerated and vacuum-packed ones were also bought by customers who had dined in our store before. The front desk lady said helplessly, so we have nothing now. Bohara. So those gourmet hunters didn't even leave him any frozen food, right? It's just like a swarm of locusts passing through, leaving no food at all. I'm so hungry. Bohara dragged his tired and hungry body out of the restaurant. Leaning against the wall next to him, he sat down with his legs spread open. I really want to eat green leaf crabs. He raised his head and looked at the night that was falling, and the bright moon that was slowly rising into the sky. In his eyes at this moment, the full moon was like the shell of the cooked green leaf crabs. The shell of the green leaf crab can also be made into high-quality tempura after being fried and then dipped in the seasoning sauce made from oro rosemary. Bohara stared at the moon in the sky, his mouth wide open, drooling. If the crab meat is fried and made into crab rice, once put it into my mouth in big mouthfuls, slurp. Bohara imagined the delicious taste, and didn't dare to think how satisfied he would be if he ate it like this. In fact, he had already imagined that the table full of green leaf crabs would be placed in front of him, and the aroma of seafood was transmitted into his nostrils. He felt that he had already smelled this aroma. Aroma. Bohara's nose suddenly twitched twice, and the aroma was transmitted into his nostrils. No mistake, this smell is indeed the aroma of green leaf crabs. Swish. The next second, his huge body jumped up directly from the spot. Bohara's mouth was watering, his nose was twitching, and he immediately ran along the scent. At this moment, under the temptation of delicious food, he successfully burst out with a flexible speed that was completely opposite to his huge body. And with such a fragrance, this is definitely a very plump green leaf crab. Chapter 87, First Delicacy. Thinking of this, Bohara could not help but speed up his pace again. Following the scent, he walked out of the town and headed for the nearby jungle. The deeper he went, the stronger the smell of the scent. Until, in front of Bohara, a strange hut in the shape of a dome had appeared in his eyes. Logically speaking, the appearance of such a strange building in the dense forest must be a cause for concern. But Bohara, whose mind was full of crabs at this time, would not care so much. Hello, is anyone there? He came directly to the strange hut and shouted. Just as he was thinking about knocking on the door, he suddenly realized that his height and body shape seemed to be catching up with this house. Squeak. Fortunately, before he tried to lift the roof, the door was already open. It's rare that there are guests in such a place. A man in a neat black suit walked out of the house. After taking a look at Bohara, a smile appeared on his face. Besides, you seem to be a gourmet hunter. Bohara didn't move as if he didn't hear anything, and he stared intently at the crab leg in the other party's hand. It seems that you are here for the green leaf crab, right? The man in the black suit seemed to know Bohara's character, and he waved the crab leg in his hand without surprise. It just so happens that I still have some in inventory here, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Before the other party finished speaking, Bohara was full of joy and thanked him impatiently. You're welcome. At this moment, the man in the black suit took out a full box of green leaf crabs from the room. And they were all the fattest and largest varieties. Bohara's eyes were wide open this time. Leave these green leaf crabs to me. Bohara rolled up his sleeves and said, My cooking skills are pretty good. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. At this time, Bohara remembered that he had not yet revealed his identity, and he quickly said, My name is Bohara. He patted his big belly and said proudly, I am a single-star gourmet hunters. The big belly cooperated with him very well, making bursts of roaring sounds. Lon, currently, I am on a journey. Lon also smiled and pushed the green leaf crab in front of him to Bohara. Since you are a gourmet hunter, then I am lucky to have a good meal today. Just leave it to me. Bohara patted his big belly confidently. Lon, do you have any other ingredients and seasonings here? He asked for things very familiarly. If there are seasonings, then I can cook these green leaf crab better. Maybe not before, but now. Lon glanced at the blind box with white light next to Buhara and opened it directly. Get a normal blind box. Do you want to open it? Open successfully. Get seasoning set. Source world, none. As for ingredients, I may not have extra here, but as for seasonings. Lon waved his hand, and a set filled with various seasonings appeared on the field. That's everything. It's really normal for a blind box open from a gourmet hunter to produce things related to food. So many seasonings. Buhara's eyes lit up, and he immediately leaned over and carefully counted the items with his huge fingers. Is the variety so complete? And some of the condiments I haven't even heard of. Great. There are so many. Buhara was like a child who was full of joy after getting his favorite toy. With these seasonings, I can make the best tasting green crab. He grinned happily and did it as soon as he said it. He immediately rolled up his sleeves and started working there. Well, don't talk about cooking utensils or not, for a single-star gourmet hunter, everything around can become his cooking stage. Not to mention that Buhara also has its own special cooking tools. Whether it is making fire, cutting or dissecting, he's so huge, but it looks so smooth. No wonder he is a single-star gourmet hunter. Lon can feel Buhara's smooth movements just by watching from the side. Every profession has its own specialty, and the cooking skills he displayed were much better than the so-called gourmets and some gourmet hunters he had seen in the town before. This is the first delicacy he has tasted since coming to this world and being brought back to the family by Light Nostrade. After hearing the name of the green leaf crab, he rushed here as soon as possible and took the fattest batch. Just when he was about to continue eating it, he didn't expect to run into Buhara here, which was an unexpected encounter. Okay. After a long time of busy work, Buhara successfully placed a green leaf crab feast on the table that Lon brought out. Crab cakes, cheese-baked crab, curry crab, crab roe sashimi. Buhara introduced it in detail, and the saliva at the corners of his mouth had already burst like a dam. If it weren't for the fact that the owner of these green leaf crabs was still standing here and didn't start, he would have been unable to hold back. It looks very good. Lon made a gesture. Then what are we waiting for? Thank you. With a low roar, Buhara, who couldn't hold back, pounced on the food. Lon was not to be outdone and tasted all the delicacies on the table at speed, not inferior to Buhara. Indeed, the taste was more than one level better than what he made himself. So, when it comes to food, no one has a better say than the gourmet hunter. Putting a crab cake into his mouth, Lon nodded in agreement. The green leaf crab feast was quite satisfying, and all the stocks Lon took out were wiped out by the two of them. Under Buhara's superb skills, Lon also tasted the various flavors of the Hunter x Hunter world. But it also made him sure of one thing. Buhara, can you make crabs with the flavor of typhoon shelter? Typhoon shelter? What is that? A new seasoning. Sure enough, in this hunter world, there is no concept of Chinese cuisine yet. It's a cooking method. Lon wiped his mouth after eating and drinking. If there is a chance, I can tell you about it. New cuisine. Buhara, who was patting his stomach and savoring the taste, was immediately attracted again. I've never heard of this cuisine. Is it from your hometown? In addition to food and ingredients, only new dishes can make gourmet hunters pay more attention. Well, there are countless cuisines and food in my hometown. Lon has sufficient confidence to speak on this point. Buhara, who was full, secreted thick salivary in his mouth again. Lon, you said you were traveling, right? Yes, what's wrong? That, he. Buhara touched the back of his head with one hand and laughed. It's hard to deal with some difficult ingredients that are difficult to cook by yourself, right? What do you mean? Chapter 88, Tour Guide, Chef, and Foil. Lon looked at the huge figure in front of him and laughed. I mean. Buhara, who was a little embarrassed at first, saw Lan's smile and felt his heart shrunk. You may still lack a good cook to help you prepare food. From what you said, it seems to be true. Lon rubbed his chin and thought about it seriously. Then, under Buhara's eyes, who just showed joy, okay, it's decided. Lon clapped his hands. I will go to the Hunter Association to recruit a good gourmet hunter later. Under Buhara's dazed expression, Lon also listed his requirements. It is best to find a beautiful gourmet hunter with fair skin, long legs, a good figure, and good looks. In this way, in addition to being able to taste delicious food, it is also very pleasing to the eyes. Buhara. So people like me are not considered directly, right? Considering that his appearance is really not good, but he really wants to learn about new cuisines, Buhara hurriedly said. There are very few women in gourmet hunters. Even if there are, most of them are fat in order to eat more food. He emphasized the word fat. Is that so? Lon looked at him with a half-smile. Isn't there anyone who is a little bit more normal? Well, there is. Thinking of a female gourmet hunter who has been gaining momentum in the association recently and who has also won the title of single-star gourmet hunter like him. Buhara's eyes were a little evasive, but when he thought about her personality, he made up his mind to go for it. But she is very difficult to deal with, and she has a very bad temper and is very willful. Well, I'm telling the truth. But why do I still feel a little uneasy? Okay. Seeing Buhara like this, Lon didn't plan to tease him anymore. It just so happens that you and I meet here. It can be regarded as fate for the two of us. And your cooking skills are really beyond reproach. Lon smiled and invited him. Would you like to come with me for a simple trip? Of course, that's no problem. Buhara patted his belly happily and assured, don't worry, Lon, any ingredients you encounter, just leave it to me with confidence. So far, Lan's short trip has been extended. If you want to know more about the travel content in a short time, it would be best to have a tour guide to help introduce it. If this tour guide is also a very good chef and has a single-star certification in the Hunter Association, with many permissions, more importantly, as long as he is given some cooking utensils, he can handle everything. Is there any better choice than this cost-effective choice? What's more, with Buhara. When others look at him, what comes into view is Buhara's huge and fat body and this silly look. And look at Lon again, wearing a smart black suit. Isn't there a sense of contrast? People, besides relying on clothes, still need to have a foil when they go out. So, Buhara, a tour guide, chef, and foil, officially started to work. Unfortunately, my house is a bit small, and you can't get in. Lon looked at his house and Buhara's body size. It's okay, I can live outside. Buhara is not picky at all in this regard. I usually sleep in the wild when I catch food outside. As he said, he just spread out his legs, lay on the ground, and leaned against the big tree next to him. Lon. Look, what is a good employee? This is a good employee. If it were really in the blessed society where the living conditions are 996, someone like Buhara, who is not picky about living conditions and just wants a bite to eat, would definitely be the boss's favorite. And it seems that he really just wants food to eat. Good night then. After saying good night, Lon also returned to his house. Good night. Buhara also yawned directly on the spot. Under the moonlight, inside and outside the house, everyone slept very peacefully. And far away on the other side of the ocean. In the quiet little village on Whale Island, the only bar on the island was also officially closed. The family of 3 in the house also slept very comfortably. It seems that everything is the same as before. On the roof, Jing Freak sat cross-legged with a dog-tail grass in his mouth. Where's the problem? He leaned back and lay on the roof, a little confused. Ding-dong. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. A new text message came. A large-scale unknown infectious disease broke out in the town of Ballaril, which is suspected to be related to the Dark Sonata. Gel and Cheadle Yorkshire have gone there one after another. For the other Zodiac 12, please make corresponding arrangements. Dark Sonata. Jing glanced at the name and then put his phone away. But the next second, he stopped plugging his phone in. I remember that the town of Ballaril is quite close to Lake Mochilia. He should be nearby, right? Jing scratched his head, then let's go and meet him. No matter how much information there is, it is far less real than the feeling of meeting the target in person. Coincidentally, Jing also wanted to find a suitable opportunity, and this one came to him. Lon and Buhara also started their journey. Early the next morning, in Buhara's surprised eyes, Lon turned the house into a small capsule and put it away. Sure enough, Mr. Lon is not an ordinary person. Buhara watched all this silently and did not ask. Everyone has their own secrets. Perhaps this is one of his abilities, and rashly exploring his bottom line is also a taboo in getting along with others. The two of them walked and stopped along the way, looking for suitable delicacies and experiencing different customs and practices. Buhara told Lon everything he knew, saw, and heard and captured the ingredients he encountered on the road. Lon occasionally brought out some cooking methods that Buhara had never seen before. For example, the typhoon shelter stir-fry method mentioned earlier, as well as some boiled fish, pot-fried pork, etc., in Buhara's opinion, are very novel dishes. At least, he had never seen these cuisines, and the taste was also very unique. This made Buhara feel very satisfied, and he was also looking forward to the next trip. I recommend our next destination is the town of Ballarat. On the way, Buhara strongly suggested, the pigs raised on Ballarat have a very good flavor. It tastes even better when used to make roasted whole pigs, right? After walking along the way, Lon naturally understood Buhara's preferences. Roasted whole pigs are Buhara's favorite food. He. Buhara touched the back of his head, smiled foolishly, and did not refute. Then let's go and have a look. Lon said, it's just right, I'll let you try other pork dishes. Chapter 89, Meeting with Jing. Let me tell you what red braised pork, twice cooked pork, crispy pork elbow, red braised lion's head. Listening to Lan's series of dishes, Buhara's saliva flowed out again. It was another delicacy he had never heard of. Following Lon, there were always big surprises. This also made Buhara more eager to go to the town of Ballarat. But, when they came to the entrance of the Ballarat town, blocked. Seeing the hunter staff busy blocking the road, Buhara hurriedly ran up to ask. An infectious disease broke out inside. After Buhara showed his single-star hunter identity, the staff became easy to talk to. Although the infectiousness is not widespread, the disease is very severe and can cause great damage to the internal organs of the human body. The staff briefly explained the situation. When he heard that there was an infectious disease inside, no matter how greedy he was, Buhara had no choice but to give up. But at this moment, are you Mr. Buhara and Mr. Lon? The staff seemed to have reacted and looked at Buhara and Lon twice more, asking for confirmation. It's us, what's the matter? Buhara was still immersed in the low pressure of not being able to eat delicious pig dishes. If it's you too, then please follow me, someone wants to see you. The staff invited politely. There was a silence at the scene. Buhara ignored him, and Lon just looked at him quietly, making the atmosphere a little awkward. The staff was a little embarrassed to see that the two did not respond. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something else. But at this time, I want to see you. Behind him, they don't know when a hedgehog head figure appeared. Hello. The man was wearing dusty clothes, one hand was in his pocket, and the other hand was extended to Lon. My name is Jing Freaks. The face that was almost the same as Gon's, but more mature, had a sloppy beard and bright eyes. The bright brown eyes met Lan's eyes. Lon. Lon chuckled in response. This was the first time the two of them had met officially in this world. At the same time, Lon glanced at the blue blind box that Jing had brought with him. Sure enough, he was the protagonist's father, after all, and the blind box he showed up in was different from the ordinary extras. In a small camp next to Ballarat. Want an apple? In the tent, after the two sat down, this was Jing Freaks' first opening statement. No. Oh. The scene fell into silence again. Buhara was taken to the cafeteria by the staff, and there were only two people left in the tent. Jing thought about it and tried to open the topic. You are indeed a little different from what I imagined. You are almost what I thought. Lon said leisurely, looking at Gon's face and his head shape. You can imagine what his father is like. I'm not talking about appearance. Jing was immediately shocked. Also, the thing between us is us. I see. Lon expressed his understanding. Then I won't mention him next time. Jing, actually, it's okay to mention it. He hesitated for a moment, then simply said, I know you got my phone number from the chairman. There must be something that needs my help. So let's make a deal. You tell me how you know about Gon and how much you know. I'll help you solve your problem. How about that? Not so good. Lon shook his head. Jing raised his eyebrows, waiting for Lan's answer. From their first meeting, Lon shouldn't be the kind of person who pushes the issue. I think you may not be able to solve my problem. Lon said truthfully, so I think our deal may not be established. Hearing Lan's provocation, Jing's brow furrowed, then relaxed, and he said calmly. Such childish tricks are useless to me. Then a spark seemed to flash in his eyes. Tell me, what kind of problem makes you feel that even I can't solve it? Lon. This is it. Lon took out a dino cap set and threw it to the ground. Plop. The purple smoke dissipated, revealing a suspended small flying car. One is the space reduction technology of this dino cap set, and the other is the suspended driving technology of this flying car. He looked at Jing Freaks, who sat up a little straighter. I think with the current technology, it is impossible to solve the principles of these two technologies. What do you think? Jing did not respond but looked at the suspended flying car with his eyes gradually concentrating, and his expression became serious. At the same time, he was muttering something silently, as if he were analyzing and studying it. But if someone knows lip reading and can understand multiple languages to distinguish it carefully, they will almost find. Jing used several ancient languages to make up a sentence. I am not good at engineering. For him, who likes historical relics, biological research, and fantasy games, this kind of scientific research direction is indeed the least he's good at. Jing is not an all-round person, after all. There are also industries that he is passionate about and not very interested in. For example, this kind of technical research and development. Ahem, this technology looks difficult. Jing pretended to cough twice. It's actually not simple at all. I think for such a complex level, we need to find some professional people to help. And it just so happens that I also know some good guys in this area, and it's no problem to hand it over to them. After all these years of adventure, Jing has made many friends, and there are still many professionals specializing in this field. But that's just your friend, I don't trust him. Lon replied with a light sentence. Can't you solve the problem yourself? He doesn't have the habit of sharing the technology with others for nothing. There is really no way. No means no, Jing admitted very frankly, this is not my main direction. The main thing he does now, besides arranging things for his son, Gon, is to focus on the Dark Continent. Learning a variety of ancient written languages, exploring the diversity of organisms, excavating various ancient ruins to obtain information and intelligence. All these behaviors are to prepare for setting foot on the Dark Continent in the future. Chapter 90. How did you know I was coming here? As for scientific research and technology, to be honest, in front of the strange Nen, these are really nothing. For example, the mobile phone that Jing himself uses is made through special Nen. So, when facing Lan's question, it seems that there is no solution. Then I will introduce them to you later. Jing scratched his unshaven cheek and took another look at the suspended flying car there. Lon, who can take out such a thing, is also worthy of his attention. At least, he did not feel the fluctuation of Nen at the moment when this so-called dino caps was released. Without using Nen ability, you can shrink a thing and load it in a capsule. Such a space technology means. Jing had already started thinking in his heart. And this also made his attention to Lon quietly rise in his heart. At the same time, he almost understood why Chairman Netero gave him his phone number. This man really played a vital role in the future exploration of the Dark Continent. Just when Jing was thinking. How did you know I was coming here? Lon asked his doubts. From your appearance, you must be waiting for me here, right? Well, it's not difficult to track down a person. Jing nodded. It's even easier when two people act together. As long as someone knows that Bohara is traveling with you, they would know that his favorite food is roasted whole pig. And Balaril, which is closer to Machilia where you started, Rauza good pigs, everything is clear. After saying that, he did not forget to add a sentence in a stubborn and arrogant way. Of course, I didn't come here mainly for you. Lon did not expose him but also found something wrong. I saw that the town is now closed. Well, something did happen. Jing looked at Lon and asked tentatively, do you know the Dark Sonata? Yes, I know a little bit. Lon vaguely understood what happened in this town. Is this place affected by the Dark Sonata? The Dark Sonata is said to be a solo piece composed by the Devil King. It is a score composed of 4 instruments: piano, violin, flute, and harp, which can be played separately. When humans play or listen to it, they will inevitably suffer unimaginable terrible disasters. In short, it is a legendary music score. The music hunter melody became what it is now after listening to the flute play of the Dark Sonata, and the flute player died after the performance. Well, according to current speculation, a small part of the sonata notes gave birth to an infectious disease that began to spread in this small town. The source is still being investigated. Although the whole town has been affected, there are still many survivors. Jing said calmly, this should be a kind of luck for them. Not dying under the sonata is already a very lucky thing. But they are also unfortunate. They suffered an unexpected disaster or an infectious disease, making them suffer from pain and torture. Do you want to take a look? Jing suddenly invited Lan. Me. Well, I suddenly feel that you should have a solution. He stroked his chin and said with an extremely certain tone. There must be. In the medical camp near the town of Balleril. Are the blood test results out? The sample is in test tube number 0512. What is the feedback on the condition of the patient in bed 72? In the main diagnosis room, Cheadle Yorkshire wore glasses and directed the development of various medical work in an orderly manner. Although the source is still being investigated, the situation has stabilized under her leadership as a triple-star disease hunter. And with Gel's help, the overall condition has been controlled. As long as the clinical treatment and recovery methods or special medicines are prepared, the disaster will be basically eliminated. But I hope that an effective treatment method can be found in time. Cheadle Yorkshire knew that it was not just the disease that was racing against her. There was also the high-level V5 behind the Hunter Association. For example, in this experiment involving Dark Sonata, V5 himself knows what to do. In order to calm everything down to the greatest extent, they would choose to erase everything related as quickly as possible. Cheadle Yorkshire had seen too many such things. Dr. Cheadle, it's not good. At this time, a doctor came running in a panic. The condition of the patient in bed 72 suddenly worsened. What's the situation? Cheadle Yorkshire's face was solemn, and she asked calmly. Just like the previous case, the internal organs have been greatly damaged, and the organ failure is extremely serious. It has already. The doctor who came did not say anything further, and Cheadle Yorkshire naturally understood. I'll be there right away. Dr. Gel was already there, but what? Seeing the doctor still hesitant, Cheadle Yorkshire said angrily, not explaining the patient's condition clearly is a big taboo. It's not the patient's business. Seeing Cheadle Yorkshire angry, the doctor hurriedly said, it's Mr. Jing. He also brought someone we had never seen before. Jing. Hearing this name, Cheadle Yorkshire, who was rushing over there, suddenly stopped thinking. What is he doing here? And he brought a stranger with him. Is he here to help with the treatment? While rushing on the road, Cheadle Yorkshire subconsciously had such a thought in her mind and then immediately ruled it out. How could this be possible? She herself thought it was absurd. That guy usually doesn't come to meetings, and he doesn't care about anything in the association. Would he care about a patient's condition? Jing is a more relaxed boss in the Hunter Association than Netero. He doesn't care about anything and doesn't ask. His share of the duties and powers at the Zodiac 12 had long been handled by others. Instead of trusting someone like Jing to help treat the patient, Cheadle Yorkshire would rather believe that this guy would turn a new leaf, get married, have children, and be a good father. And when she rushed all the way to the sick camp where the patient was, as expected, a dispute had already occurred inside. What are you doing? What caught Cheadle Yorkshire's eyes was Gel, her arms transformed into the form of a snake, blocking the man's way. As for in front of her, it was Jing Freaks, who was still sloppy and recognizable at a glance. I said, we are just here to check the patient's condition. Jing folded his hands across his chest with a righteous look on his face. I rushed here after receiving the message from Beans. I am also fulfilling my duties as one of the Zodiac 12. Received the news. Rush. Performed his duty. If these words were said by any other Zodiac 12, even if it was said by Kanzai, I would believe it. Gel's expression was quite unfriendly, but your words, which of these words have anything to do with you? Her pair of snake pupils stared at Jing closely, making the other party a little terrified. I said, I'm here to help. Jing repeated seriously. Help? You. I personally suggest that you don't mix your subjective opinion of me with personal emotions that conflict with me, thereby affecting the treatment of patients. Gel. What do you mean, is she the doctor, or is Jing the doctor? Okay, I want to see how you come to help. Gel was almost laughing with anger. She directly made way, affecting the treatment of patients, huh? She also thought that this was in the ward, and Gel didn't want to have any more quarrels with Jing. But the so-called help and treatment of patients. She doesn't believe it at all. Chapter 91, Special Treatment Method. Just now, she couldn't help herself when she saw that bastard Jing. Next, as long as he behaved badly to the patient. Gel's arm, which turned into a snake, was ready to go at any time. Don't doubt the aggressiveness of a poison hunter. She will let Jing know what cruelty is. What happened? Cheadle Yorkshire quickly scanned the whole place, then walked to a doctor who was trembling beside her and asked. Just now, Mr. Jing brought a stranger in and said he wanted to see the patient, but Dr. Gel didn't allow it, so this is it. The doctor who was asked was petite, wearing a medical cap and mask, and swiftly summed up what happened just now into one sentence. He. Cheadle Yorkshire looked at the man standing next to Jing. Tall, wearing a straight black suit, this is what she saw from the back. Cheadle Yorkshire couldn't help asking, did you hear the stranger's name, Sandbika? No. Dr. Sandbika shook her head repeatedly, fearing that she had done something wrong. What's the patient's condition? Very dangerous. Cheadle Yorkshire also fell silent. Sandbika, an excellent doctor who made their hunter association very famous, said that the situation was very dangerous. That was equivalent to basically sentencing the patient to death. And Jing and the stranger he brought said they wanted to help. How is it? Standing in front of bed number 72, Jing looked at the patient on the bed and asked Lan beside him. What do you think? Lan looked at the patient on the bed. He was only a teenager of 14 or 15 years old. At this age, he should have been in school and had his best years. But now, the pathogen has invaded various organs of his body, and the organs are rapidly failing, basically. Jing shook his head. In this case, even if an enhancer with outstanding healing ability came, it would be difficult to pull him back from the brink of death. Is it just the internal organs? Lan asked. Well, this infectious disease is very strange, it only targets the organs in the human body. Jing took another look, his bones, nerves, and so on are all intact. Lan nodded gently. If it is an internal organ, it's just right, he has some ideas in his mind that need to be tested. And the current patient's condition just meets his requirements. He can verify whether his speculation is correct. The little boy lying on the bed seemed to be at the last ray of his light at this moment and spoke in a hoarse voice. In his tone, there was a full attachment to life. Takia hasn't eaten yet, I want to go back alive, go back. The little boy spoke intermittently, and these words almost exhausted all his strength. He has a sister. At this time, Dr. Sandbika, behind them, suddenly whispered, their parents died a few years ago, and he and his sister are the only ones living. Where is his sister? Lan asked without turning his head. In the nursing room next door, the current condition. Sandbika glanced at the little boy on the bed and hesitated for a moment, very stable. Takia. The little boy on the bed was still mumbling this name, and finally, he seemed to sense something. Can I see Takia? He opened his eyes as wide as possible and asked Lan. Of course. Lan nodded gently, but do you want to meet her properly or meet her like this? Can I still be saved? The little boy's tone was no longer so anxious, as if he had already accepted his fate. I said you will, and you will. Lan looked at him calmly, but the premise is that you are not afraid of pain. I'm not afraid. Looking into Lan's eyes, he seemed to see the seriousness of Lan's expression. His tone became a little excited again. I'm not afraid of anything. That's good. What's your name? Morode. What a good name. Lan turned his head and looked at Jing next to him. Don't let anyone disturb me when I make a move next. Leave it to me. Jing folded his arms and took on this task. Then Morode. Lan turned his eyes to the bed and gave the last warning. Next, I will give you some unconventional treatments. This treatment process will be painful. But as long as you endure it, you will recover. Are you ready? Morode on the boat nodded with difficulty, and even at this moment, he had added a lot of strength. Very good. Swish. A glass of water appeared out of thin air in Lan's hand, and then his other hand seemed to crush something and sprinkled a handful of powder into the water. This scene also made Gel and Cheadle Yorkshire, who were present, look suspiciously at him for a moment. Then, let's start. After that, Lon said no more and put his hand on Morode's abdomen on the bed. First, the kidneys. Amid his calm words, a violent burst of Nen suddenly broke out from Lan's palm. Bang. A muffled sound was clearly audible in the room. What are you doing? Under Cheadle Yorkshire and Gel's eye, whose expression changes drastically, Morode, who's in bed, his eyes bulged out, and blood mixed with internal organs spurted out of his mouth immediately. Are you killing him? Gel could no longer bear it, and her snake arm lashed out directly. However. Ding! As if blocked by an invisible wall, the snake stagnated in midair and could no longer move forward. Gel's face was extremely ugly, and she said coldly to Jing, who was blocking her, "Do you know what he is doing?" "I know." Jing Freaks was calmer than anyone else now. "He is breaking the kid's kidney." He said, "Don't let anyone disturb him." "You bastard." Gel's eyes were blazing with fire, and she wished she could tear Jing into pieces. Cheadle Yorkshire behind her also looked gloomy. But as calm as she was, she did not take any action immediately. Instead, she stared at Lon, who was doing the treatment, to see his next move. Just when Jing and Gel were arguing. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 92, The Key Lies in This Man. When Morode spurted out blood, Lon quickly passed the water in his hand into his mouth and controlled it with Nen, making him swallow it down his throat. And then, in the next second, his breath seems to have stabilized. Sandbika, who had been silent at the side, whispered this sentence again. Stabilized. Gel looked over and found that Morode's breath, which had been rapidly weakening, was gradually stabilizing. It seemed that his condition was much better than before. How could this happen? Gel's pupils widened again. This was a phenomenon that could not be explained by normal medical theory, so. Is it Nen? Her eyes subconsciously looked at Lon standing in front of the bed. But just now, she clearly only sensed the aggressive Nen destroying the kidneys, and there was no such thing as healing and recovery. Even if it was Nen, she did not find any trace of this. Is it the glass of water? Cheadle Yorkshire, who saw everything, keenly noticed the strange but important part of Lan's action just now. After destroying Morode's kidneys, he fed Morode a sip of water, and then the other party's breath stabilized. Destroy and then rebuild. This word suddenly appeared in Cheadle Yorkshire's mind. Sandbika, next to him, pinched the corner of her clothes in a tangle. She really wanted to check the patient and see his current physical condition. But the extreme social phobia, coupled with such a heavy atmosphere, still made her retreat silently into the corner, not daring to say a word. How do you feel? Lon asked Morode, who was panting, at the bedside. Morode grinned, revealing a mouthful of bloody teeth. Much better. That's good. Lon moved his hand on him upwards. Next is the spleen. As soon as he finished speaking, another wave of Nen surged. There was no time for people to react, and there was a muffled sound. Puff. Morode's eyes bulged, and he vomited another mouthful of blood. Lon followed the same method and fed him another mouthful of water. No problem. Morode forced himself to show a difficult smile. At least he can laugh now. Gel's arm had long since been put down and returned to normal, and Jing also stood aside in silence. Together with Cheadle Yorkshire, Sandbika, and others who didn't say a word, they quietly watched Lan's special treatment. Next is the liver. Bang. Then the stomach. Bang. Every time Lon moved, Morode suffered the pain of his internal organs being shattered, and the pain was almost unspeakable. His whole bed had long been soaked with blood, staining it scarlet. But Morode didn't cry out in pain, and even after drinking water every time, he would force himself to grin. To show that he didn't have any problems now. Gel and Cheadle Yorkshire, who were watching the scene, were completely speechless. It's not that they haven't seen more cruel interrogations or punishments than this, but compared to what Morode is suffering now. Especially since he was a 14-year-old patient. There was always reluctance in their heart. But no one jumped out to stop Lan's actions. They could all clearly see that Morode's breath on the bed was getting better and better. Every time his internal organs were broken, and he drank water, his condition would recover until the last organ on his body. Heart. Bang. Lan's face was calm. While crushing Morode's heart, he used his Nen to hold Morode's last breath. Then he quickly fed Morode water mixed with senzabine powder. In an instant, the originally pale face became ruddy again. That's it. Lan looked at Morode, who was pale but looked much better on the bed. How do you feel? Morode smiled with difficulty. I feel good, thank you. He expressed his gratitude from the bottom of his heart. That's good. Lan smiled for the first time, and have a good rest. He gently took his hand away from Morode's body and asked Jing, who was silent beside him. How is he now? The new organs are all very healthy. Jing Freaks carefully scanned Morode's body on the bed and nodded slightly after confirming that there was no strange pathogen on his body. According to normal medical theory, he has recovered. Gel and Cheadle Yorkshire behind him couldn't help raising their eyebrows after hearing this while hiding the fluctuations in their hearts. Sambika couldn't help but want to tell Jing that to judge the recovery, multiple tests were needed to confirm that they were correct before the results could be given. She wanted to go forward and do a physical examination of the patient. But looking at Morode, who was sweating profusely and closed his eyes peacefully with a happy and grateful smile on his face after listening to Jing's words, she couldn't say it. The other party had suffered so much pain, and now he finally closed his eyes and fell asleep, and she couldn't bear to disturb him again. It's good that he has recovered. Lan glanced at the empty water cup in his hand and put it away again. The principle of treatment is very simple. After the internal organs are crushed, Morode is fed with water containing senzabine. Therefore, new healthy internal organs are repaired and shaped in an instant. He still has a lot of inventory, so there is no need to worry at all. It just happened to verify his guess. Senzabines may not be able to cure diseases, but they can still repair such destructive damage. Just like in Dragon Ball, many Z fighters were either pierced through the body by ki or pierced through the chest by the enemy's hand, leaving a big hole. After eating the senzabines, they all got better, and the holes on their bodies were completely repaired. The effect on Morode is the same, which is a matter of breaking down before building up. As Lan imagined, the treatment effect is also very good. Sure enough, I knew you had a way. Jing Freaks touched his unshaven beard and pulled it from time to time. First crush the infected pathogenic organs, and then feed the magical water that allows people to recondense the organs. In this way, you can get brand new, revitalized, and intact new organs. Jing nodded seriously with a look of being taught. If it cannot be solved at the biological and medical level, you can also choose physical therapy. He got a new idea. Although his focus is not on medical treatment, he prefers to use Nen to solve the problem. For example, a disease of this degree can be easily cured by taking it to his greed island and using angel's breath. But this does not mean that he does not have some medical means. Just like when Gon was forced to grow his own age and fell into that state, he was not panicked at all and was busy with his own affairs. Obviously, he had his own ideas and subsequent preparations. But if you use physical therapy, you still need the magical potion that can quickly condense and restore the broken internal organs. At least I don't even have this potion. And when you smash the internal organs, control your Nen and don't hurt other places. And after doing the damage, you can use Nen to keep the other person's vitality in time so that he won't die immediately and thus have a chance to recover. Just now, Jing was on the side and watched the whole process of treatment in detail. He saw it clearly and knew where the focus of this treatment was. Lan and his healing water were both indispensable. So this treatment method cannot be promoted on a large scale. Cheadle Yorkshire, who also saw it clearly in the back, also thought about it from a medical perspective. However, the final conclusion was that this method could not be copied or promoted. The key point lies in this man and his healing water. Perhaps his water can also promote the treatment work. Cheadle Yorkshire focused her attention on Lan again. Chapter 93, You Don't Have to Go Back. Cheadle Yorkshire turned her gaze to Jing and asked, Jing, don't you want to introduce? Huh. Hearing Cheadle Yorkshire's question, Jing turned around after pulling off a beard. Hey, you're here too, Cheadle Yorkshire, long time no see. He raised his hand perfunctorily and greeted her. You must have sensed my arrival a long time ago. Cheadle Yorkshire had a blank expression and pushed her glasses hard. Sure enough, this bastard's personality is so unpleasant. My name is Jing Freaks, and I'm currently a ruins hunter. Who asked you about yourself? Jell couldn't help but interrupt Jing's self-introduction. You bastard, everyone in the Hunter Association knows you. We want to ask about the person next to you. Him. Jing looked at Lon, who was wiping his hands. If it's him, I think you should all know him. Well, his name is Lon. He just participated in this year's Hunter exam as a candidate but was eliminated. As if he had finally found his place somewhere, Jing slightly straightened his chest. Compared to the old predecessor who passed the test in one try, he is still a lot worse. Young people should practice well, after all. Cheadle Yorkshire and Jell ignored Jing's sense of superiority and thought about this infamous man. Lon. Hunter exam, eliminated. When they first heard the name Lon, they did not react. However, as soon as the keywords Hunter exam were eliminated, they immediately had an impression. Is it the candidate who beat up the examiner in the Hunter exam? Jell blurted out and then immediately narrowed her eyes and looked at Lon carefully. No wonder he can do such a thing. Beating up the examiner during the exam is not something that normal humans can do. Just like now, using this strange brute force to cure diseases and save lives. This bold idea and the courage to put it into practice and the process are very successful. He is not an ordinary person. Cheadle Yorkshire looked at Lon carefully and turned around. She glanced at Jing Freaks, who was scratching his hair next to her. The guy who can walk with Jing is not a normal guy. Hello. While Cheadle Yorkshire and Jell looked at her carefully, Lon also greeted them politely. Jell. Cheadle Yorkshire. The two Zodiac 12 also introduced themselves. Lon knew them, of course, Snake and Dog, in the Zodiac 12, and they were also excellent hunters. Well, it was mainly because of the white blind box next to the two people, which exuded a good luster. Sandbika Norton. At this time, a weak voice sounded behind everyone. Sandbika stood up with her hands clenched due to nervousness, as she didn't know where to put them. Under everyone's gaze, especially Lan's eyes, her tone became more panicked. But thinking of the next treatment and rescue work, she could only make up her mind and said, "Can I know what kind of water you fed patient number 72 when you rescued him?" Cheadle Yorkshire and Jell looked at her. They also knew that the healing water was important, but because it involved Lan's personal private methods, they were wise not to ask more. Sandbika's rash question seemed a bit impolite and disrespectful. Logically, they should have stopped her. But they were also very curious about the healing water. It's a magical water that can cure patients. Lon responded, and Cheadle Yorkshire and Jell immediately pricked up their ears. Then, there was a silence at the scene. That's it. Jell's face was full of question marks. Well, can you tell me more specifically? Sandbika, who also didn't wait for an answer, continued to muster up courage and asked in a low voice. Sorry, I can't. Lon refused. Even if this is an excellent doctor, a virus hunter, he will not leak the matter about the senza beans casually. Sandbika Norton was also voted as a candidate when the Hunter Association chairman election was happening. She is an expert in the medical field and was later invited to provide medical support for the trip to the Dark Continent. It's not surprising that she appeared here. Oh. Sandbika, who was rejected, shrank back weakly again. Cheadle Yorkshire sighed in her heart when she saw this. She didn't think they could know. Things like this can already be used as strategic items at critical moments. If it were her, she would never take out such things easily at ordinary times. But it does provide a new way of thinking, which can open up the direction of surgery. Cheadle Yorkshire kept these points in mind and showed the ability to deal with things as a branch. This is not a place to talk, let's go out first. She directly called everyone to leave here and go to the reception tent. Sandbika didn't leave, she stayed to check on and take care of the patient's condition. And for someone who has a social phobia like her, it is not suitable to go to a place where many people gather. Why did Mr. Lon come here? After sitting down on a chair, Cheadle Yorkshire asked her a question. I was traveling with gourmet hunters. I heard that the pigs raised here are good, so I planned to come here to taste them, and then I happened to encounter such a thing. There's nothing to hide, Lon said truthfully. Jell glanced at Jing Freaks, who was taking out the apple and didn't believe it at all. Then Jing, what's your reason? Cheadle Yorkshire didn't say anything and looked at Jing again. Hey, you call him Mr. Lon, and when it comes to me, you just call me Jing. Jing protested with dissatisfaction. Cheadle Yorkshire just looked at him quietly, and Jell directly made a disdainful tone. I said I came here because I received a message from Mr. Beans. What are you looking at? This time, even Cheadle Yorkshire showed a wasting time look, which made Jing feel that he was not respected. I have something to find him, and I happen to follow him here, okay. Jing crossed his arms and looked to the other side. He could see that these people just wanted to hear the answers they wanted to hear. Sure enough, after Jing finished speaking, the others stopped paying attention to him. So, what other plans does Mr. Lon have next? Cheadle Yorkshire sat up straight and said seriously, if possible, I would like to ask Mr. Lon to stay here to help the... Sorry, I'm not a professional doctor. Lon refused directly. He knew nothing about medical treatment. The scene before was just the effect of the Senzabine. Is that so? This was not unexpected to Cheadle Yorkshire. She had just made a tentative invitation. It would be great if Lon could stay. It would be no loss if he could not stay. After exchanging a few polite words with Lon again, she let Lon do what he wanted. Then, she left with Jell to continue analyzing the pathology. They did not have any extra time to delay. What are you going to do next? After there were only two of them in the tent, Jing looked at Lon. Continue to travel, and then go back when you think it's time. Lon said indifferently. I almost forgot that you are also the leader of the bodyguard team of the Nostrade family. Jing pondered for a moment, then took out his mobile phone and pressed a few buttons. Okay, you don't have to go back so early. Jing said in a very relaxed tone. Chapter 94, Scalpel as a Gift. I have promoted some business for the Nostrade family. Your boss will basically be out for the whole year and will not care about your affairs. Lon looked at Jing in surprise, and then reacted, I almost forgot that your power and wealth are equivalent to the president of a country. He was more curious about Jing's approach. Can you still arrange things in the underworld? It can't be said to be an arrangement. Jing rubbed his temple with one hand. It should be said that it is to pry a small link and then deflect the direction of the progress of a certain thing so as to go in the direction I want to see. So I just pushed your boss. He is determined to develop and expand the family business. Just like dominoes, if you push down the front one, the one behind will fall down with it, right? Lon understood. I really thank you. Jing waved his hand, so when you travel outside, you don't have to think about other things. You don't want to come with me, do you? Lon narrowed his eyes slightly. I have no interest in your travels. Jing rejected it directly. I have done all the travels I should have done when I was young. I understand. Lon nodded in understanding. During the travel, I will not go to Whale Island to disturb your arrangements. I don't have any arrangements. Jing's neck stiffened, and he refused to admit it. Then he paused and looked seriously into Lan's eyes. You have to keep your word. TSK, he is really an awkward guy. Jing did not stay here for too long and continued to do his own things in a hurry. Before he left, Lon also tentatively mentioned the shadow beasts to him. Ah, I've studied that group of people a long time ago. When leaving, Jing looked nonchalant. Those guys who look like animals are very much like biological chimeras. I studied them before to prevent people from using biological weapons. Otherwise, why do you think the shadow beasts are short of people and selections? He had killed and even captured one or two shadow beasts a long time ago and analyzed them. So, the things about rabid dogs in Lan's hands are basically useless. After all, in terms of the results, Jing has more things in his hands than Lon. Of course, it can't be said that these things are completely useless. It just so happens that Neon likes to collect human organs, and the parts of the shadow beast are enough as gifts for her after being away for so long. So, are we leaving? Hiccup. After filling his stomach, Buhara patted his big belly and followed Lon. Although he didn't eat the roasted whole pig he liked in the town of Ballaril, he did taste many local specialties. Of course, he is not the kind of person who only eats and does not work. Buhara made full use of his identity as a gourmet hunter and made a lot of healing dishes for some weak patients. And he also left some very valuable diet menus for the medical team here. Well, let's continue to the next destination. The new journey continues. The customs and habits are really different in every town of the Hunter x Hunter world. What do you recommend next? I remember that in the southeastern coastal area of the Asian continent, there is a specialty called thunder drill pterosaur. The meat on their forehead is a treasure in the world. It is said to be the most wonderful meaty taste in the world, and it is also the goal of my original trip. Then you lead the way, continue to the new destination, let's set off. A tourist, a tour guide, and a chef, 2 people of 3 professions, set out on the journey again. They left, right. After coming back from analyzing the medical condition of the patients, Sambika was still a little disappointed after hearing the news. I want to learn more about his treatment methods. It seems that there is no chance. Sambika handled the work at hand without saying a word until. What is this? She looked at the box that Cheadle Yorkshire handed to her and asked curiously. This is what Lon left before he left, saying that it was something for you. For me. Sambika instinctively didn't want it, but when Cheadle Yorkshire stuffed it into her hand, she subconsciously took it without knowing how to refuse. Open it and have a look. Under Cheadle Yorkshire's urging, Sambika could only reluctantly abandon those entanglements and open the small box. At the moment of opening it, a bright white light flashed in front of the 2 people. This is a scalpel. A pure white, delicate, and small scalpel was quietly placed there. Is it still ceramic? With just one glance, Sambika couldn't move her eyes away. She carefully stretched out her hands and gently held the scalpel. It seems that there is a layer of special substance on it. As a doctor, her keenness allowed her to discover the calcification on the scalpel at first glance. This is the calcification secreted from Black Jack's body. This scalpel is also an item obtained from the blind box opened by Lon. Get a normal blind box, do you want to open it? Open successfully, get Black Jack scalpel. Source World, Black Jack. Black Jack, whose real name is Kuro Hazama, is the protagonist of the anime Black Jack. During his internship, he became an unlicensed secret surgeon because he was dissatisfied with the ecology of the medical community. He wore a black bulletproof coat wherever he went, and there was a ceramic scalpel hidden inside. This was to avoid situations where metal tools could not be used. The scalpel in his hand was left in Black Jack's body by mistake by his master, Dr. Hanma, when he rescued the young Kurohazama, who was seriously injured and dying. A few years later, he performed another operation to remove it, and Black Jack himself was not hurt at all. The reason is that Black Jack's body secretes a substance similar to calcification that covers the scalpel to prevent the scalpel from damaging the organs. When Black Jack's mentor took out the scalpel covered with calcification, he could not help but marvel at the magical mystery of the human body. He solemnly handed the scalpel to Black Jack, and the scalpel became Black Jack's standard equipment when he practiced medicine later. However, in the special edition, for some reason, Black Jack threw the scalpel and the calcification covering the scalpel into the sea. Now, Lon opened a blind box and found the scalpel he didn't need. As a favor, he gave it to Sambika, who looked more pleasing to the eye. Well, it was a blind box obtained from a doctor from the Zodiac 12, and the things inside were related to doctors. As for the blind box from Gel, the things that came out were a bit strange. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 95, The Old Woman is Fishing. Although it is also related to treatment, however. Get a normal blind box, do you want to open it? Open successfully, get paralysis potion. Source World, Redo Healer. He can only say that strange people can always bring strange blind boxes. Gel, a poison hunter, prescribed such a paralysis potion. The scalpel that Mr. Lon gave me. Sambika wiped it carefully and took care of it. I will definitely keep it well. It's a really good scalpel. Indeed, even Cheadle Yorkshire on the side couldn't help but take a second look. The significance of a good scalpel to a doctor is self-evident. As an excellent doctor, she can naturally see the quality of this scalpel. Even she is a little envious that Sambika can get such a good scalpel. I'll thank Mr. Lon when we meet next time. The back of the man in the black suit appeared in Sambika's mind. Especially when standing next to Jing Freaks, who has a sloppy appearance, it is easy to form a sharp contrast, which is impressive. Sambika murmured, "Next time we meet, if Mr. Lon has a disease on his body, I will use the scalpel he gave me to operate on him." Cheadle, Yorkshire. The envious expression quickly disappeared. I think he wouldn't want to have any disease on his body. Cheadle, Yorkshire lowered her glasses to cover the strange look in her eyes and complained in her heart. This is not a thank you, but a curse. Not to mention what strange ideas came out of Sambika's little head. Lan's trip went smoothly. Along the way, he enjoyed the natural beauty and scenery and tasted the delicious food made by Bohara. He also taught him some special dishes from his hometown. Like ground pot chicken, iron pot stew, dry stir-fried beef noodles, etc., mainly focusing on nostalgia for home. Not to mention, under Bohara's cooking, Lon really tasted the food from his hometown. It can be regarded as a little compensation for his lonely mood. However, if there is really compensation, it should be said that every time he goes to a new city or town, he will meet many passionate and free-spirited girls. This is the one that soothes Lan's lonely mood in the dead of night. As for Bohara, no girl would like that huge body and he doesn't care, he just thinks about eating all the time. The forehead meat of the thunder drill pterosaur is the best soup for noodles. What Lon heard most along the way was Bohara's thought about the thunder drill pterosaur. I once had the honor of tasting it. The soup with that meat was so delicious that the noodles were filled with essence. Slurp. He sipped his saliva vigorously, but there was still a lot of saliva flowing on the ground like a waterfall. After we catch the thunder drill pterosaur, I'll tell you how to make several other types of noodles. Lon dodged the saliva that fell from above and said casually. Like knife-cut noodles, stewed noodles, oil-splashed noodles, wonton noodles. Swish. The saliva behind him instantly flowed like a river. Lon decisively kept silent. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to walk the rest of the way but would have to row a boat instead. After all the traveling, the two finally arrived at the nearest city to the coast where the thunder drill pterosaurs lived, Gilorio. This is a classic European-style city that resembles a city in his previous life, with iron towers and riverbanks. He just doesn't know if there are Olympic Games here. Walking on the avenue of the city, Lon felt more and more familiar. Aren't there too many people? He looked at the bustling crowd on the street. They are also holding the Olympic Games here, and the surrounding thieves are also gathering here. What's happening? Bohara, who was still dreaming about delicious food, didn't hear clearly. Lon looked at the street restaurant next to him, where two guys dressed in hunting clothes ate 2 bites of food and left. Are all the people here gourmet hunters? A real gourmet hunter will not leave any food in front of him. That is the greatest disrespect to the food. Not all of them. Bohara introduced honestly, there is only one piece of forehead meat of thunder drill pterosaur, and the quantity is rare. The price has always been high in the market, and some hunters have set their sights on this price. Is that all? Lon thought that just for a piece of meat, there wouldn't be so many people competing for it. There are more valuable things. Some of them are here because of the name of thunder drill pterosaur. Name. Well, thunder drill pterosaur, on the one hand, this pterosaur often appears in the thunderclouds during thunderstorms. On the other hand, it's because of. Bohara introduced, its Adam's apple is very rare, made of a crystal clear and dazzling diamond. It is said that the beauty of that diamond is no less than the 7 beauties in the world. The Adam's apple of a creature is made of diamond, which sounds incredible. But in this world, there are many magical beasts, so it is understandable. In this way, Lon also understood why so many guys came. They might all set their sights on the Adam's apple of thunder drill pterosaur. And it shouldn't just be those hunters who want to make money. Lon glanced at Bohara and observed the figures on the street. There are also some beast hunters, stone hunters, and other professional hunters who come here specifically for this. Suddenly, Lan's sight focused, and a dazzling blue luster came into his eyes. Uncommon level blind box. He couldn't help but pay more attention. Hisoka and Jing, who were met under normal circumstances, also produce uncommon level blind box, so this person. When Lon followed the light and found the main character, a look of realization appeared on his face. It turned out to be her, then it's not surprising. Under Lan's gaze, the protagonist of Blind Meaning jumped on the street. Behind her was two figure with red and green hair, quietly following behind, with an obvious look of ulterior motives. Where are we going to eat, Lan? Don't rush to eat, I want to watch a good show first. Good show. Lan stared ahead, watching the blind box protagonist walk into a dark and secluded alley. The two figures behind her immediately followed in. A good show of an old woman fishing and those who are willing to take the bait. In the dark, deserted, and silent alley, even the light hardly shines in, and it's very dim. Ah, so it's impossible to pass here. The very cute little loli, who have golden double ponytails and a red princess puffy skirt, playfully blinked her sky-blue eyes. He, this is a blocked road, and you can't go ahead. At the entrance of the alley behind her, a strange, evil laughter sounded. Chapter 96, Is this the punishment for me being too beautiful? Two figures blocked the entrance side by side and walked in casually. Oh, little sister, are you alone? The red-haired man with earrings, lip studs, nose studs, and chin studs said, his eyes was completely focused at the blonde little loli in front of him. The extremely white and cute face, the petite figure like a little girl, the big watery eyes. Will she cry for a long time after getting punched? The red-haired man couldn't help it and licked the corner of his mouth with the tongue that was also full of tongue studs. The green-haired man next to him stared at the other's rainbow-colored princess shoes and began to gasp them uncontrollably. It seemed that he was imagining the scene of holding the petite and cute feet in his palm and playing with them at will. He couldn't help but laugh there. The blonde little girl stuck in the alley. Oh no, this time I met a pervert. It's not like she hasn't encountered guys who plotted against her in the past. After all, her current appearance is so cute, beautiful, and attractive to others. But those guys were just simply coveting her body, not like the two perverts in front of her, who seemed to have other dirty ways of playing. Such eyes and actions made her feel disgusted. It's really disgusting. On the surface, she continued to pretend to be pitiful, but in fact, her heart was full of waves of disgust. But the huge lethality brought by her pitiful look also made the two men look at her intently. You, what do you want? As if she realized that she was in a dangerous situation, the blonde little loli immediately used her crisp voice to ask in a delicate and fearful tone. However, her questioning tone did not make people feel deterrent, but instead increased the interest of the two men on the opposite side. We won't do anything to you, little sister. The red-haired man kept licking the corners of his mouth, almost licking his face clean. That's right, we will just play a simple game with you. The perverted smile on the green-haired man's face could no longer be concealed. It's a very fun game. I guarantee that you will feel extreme pleasure after playing it. The blonde little loli. Her threshold of disgust has begun to rise. She feels that if she doesn't take action, the two human-like things in front of her may continue to say those inhuman words. Really, I meet this kind of people every time I go to a place. The blonde little loli sighed, so, this is the punishment for me being too beautiful. Sure enough, this is what is called God's envy of beauty. The world will not allow things that are too beautiful and perfect to exist. When these words came out, Lan, at the entrance of the alley, almost couldn't hold it. He is a professionally trained person. Under normal circumstances, he will not laugh at any words. Unless he can't help it. Hearing a 55-year-old grandmother say such words. Sure enough, in addition to men being teenagers until death, women are also girls until death. The blonde little loli in front of him is the original master of Killua and Gon. She is also the best teacher to teach Nen that most of the travelers who travel to the Hunter x Hunter world are looking for. Biscuit Kruger, nicknamed Old Driver. Double Star Stone Hunter looks like a cute loli but is actually a 55-year-old muscular woman. Usually relying on her Nen ability, magical esthetician, she appears in a cute loli appearance and occasionally changes back to her real appearance during a fight. She likes gems, handsome men, and some restricted magazines very much. She is an old woman with a lot of insights in this area, and thus has earned the title of an old driver. Needless to say, her own strength is an absolute master of Nen, and she is one of the best among professional hunters. After the news of the Thunder Drill Pterosaur began to spread, she, who likes gems, naturally came here. By relying on her beautiful and cute appearance, she attracted some unnecessary troubles. But maybe this is a happy trouble for her. Maybe she herself also enjoys the feeling of being treated as a girl and being chased. Seeing her pitiful look. Obviously, it is the latter. But after all, she is already old, and Lon can't bear to see an old lady being treated like this, so. Just when Biscuit was about to take action the two men came forward. Bang. Bang. Two gunshots suddenly rang out in this deserted alley. The steps of the two men suddenly stopped. They looked at each other in astonishment and then tried to turn around and look back. But they had no strength left, and their lives were also slipping away quickly. Finally. Plop. The two fell into a pool of blood one after another. It was also after the two fell that the figure standing at the entrance of the alley behind them appeared. The dark alley is the final destination of the scum in society. Lon put away the gun casually and looked at the little Lolita in front of him, whose face was still pitiful while also showing a touch of shock and ignorance. "Are you okay?" Lon took 2 steps forward, put away the blue blind, and asked. I'm fine." Biscuit's face showed a touch of fear and terror at the right time, as well as a trace of hesitation and confusion about the current situation. And when Lon approached her, she pretended to take 2 steps back subconsciously. The old driver was timid on the surface, but she was cheering in her heart. "Oh! Is this the legendary hero saving the beauty? I'm so lucky to meet him. The black suit he wears is also very nice. It's my type." Lon. He only looked at the surface and gave a thumbs up to the other party's acting skills in his heart. This woman is really a natural actor. She plays this little Lolita like a little girl of this age. No wonder, in his previous life, he had heard that someone had drawn her. Cough, cough. It's good that you're okay. After putting away the blue blind box, Lan's purpose was also realized. Don't come to this kind of place alone in the future. Since the other party was disguised as a child, Lon also said in the tone of teaching a child. This world is not so peaceful. There are many bad people. After saying that, he turned around and left the other party with a back view. Wait. Wait a minute. Biscuit was stunned. No, you're leaving now. I'm such a lovely little girl, and you just left me here. I was just threatened by these 2 perverts, and I was at my most helpless moment. You don't even come to comfort me. If you don't come to comfort me and take care of me, how can I take advantage of you? Chapter 97, A True Man's Story. Lon, now only 17 years old, looks as young and handsome as ever. No wonder Biscuit wanted to take advantage of him and had such a big reaction after Lon was about to leave. Are you not indifferent to a naive and lovely girl like me? Are you still a man? Seeing that Lon really turned his back and was about to leave, she immediately shouted. Anything else? Lon looked back at her, then thought about it and pretended to be suddenly enlightened. Did you sneak out alone and have no money to eat? Lon casually took out a gold coin that exploded when he killed the men just now. Giving you too much money will make it easy for you to be targeted again. Take this gold coin to the bank to exchange for some money, which is enough to fill your stomach. Ting. He flicked the gold coin casually and flicked at Biscuit next to him. Biscuit. God, no money to eat, fill your stomach. Is eating the only option in your eyes? Biscuit almost couldn't hold back and puffed up her cheeks. Is it so beautiful and cute? But. Biscuit complained in her heart but still glanced at the gold coin that bounced over. Well, with her eyesight, she could naturally see that it was pure gold. Take it to the bank, and she can exchange it for a lot of money. She can get a pure gold coin just by appearing pitiful. Anyway. He's a pretty good person. I'm scared alone. Biscuit blinked her big cute eyes and said pitifully. So, hurry up and go to a safe place. Lon was unmoved, or go to the guards for help. Remember not to run out alone in the future. It's very dangerous. Biscuit. Can't you help me? Didn't I give you a gold coin? I mean company. I'm scared alone. Biscuit resisted the urge to vomit blood and whispered. Company. Lon vaguely realized that the old woman in front of him seemed to have some bad intentions towards him. She might be greedy for his body. I said there are many bad guys outside, and it's easy to get into trouble when you meet them. Lon pointed to the two men on the ground and smiled, I'm not a good person either. After that, he no longer paid attention to the old driver's pleading eyes and walked out of the alley directly. Biscuit. Very good, you have successfully attracted my attention. Biscuit, who was angry, puffed up her cheeks instantly. It seems that he is a man with a story. I am always curious about stories. She crossed her arms, and at this moment, her face showed an expression that was completely opposite to the previous weak and powerless one. As if she had a pearl of wisdom in her hand, and she had experienced decades of ups and downs and vicissitudes, it makes her expression completely opposite to the previous one. Besides, good guy. Bad guy. I only know that you are not an ordinary person. In her sky-blue eyes, there had long been a gathering of aura, always paying attention to everything just now. With the eyesight of this old master who has studied Nen for decades, she could naturally see the extraordinariness of Lon. You are not old, but you have such a deep Nen practice. This can't be achieved just by being serious and hardworking. The talent is definitely one of the best in the world. Biscuit, wearing white gloves, held her cheek with one hand and rapped her chest with the other, her eyes full of interest. Even among the many people I have seen, he is a rare existence. Compared to Wing, he is much stronger. Such a high-quality stone, I really want to see how he polished it. She picked up the gold coins on the ground and quickly walked out of the dark alley with small steps. It was quiet here again, leaving only two corpses lying on the ground with blood flowing quietly. Lon, is there anything special about that little girl? Buhara asked in confusion while walking on the street. When Lon took action just now, he also helped to watch at the entrance of the alley. Although he was thinking about eating, it didn't mean that he was a fool. On the contrary, at some times, Buhara was much more reliable. That's why, when selecting examiners in the future, they will specifically choose him. Ah, there are some. Lon stretched, but that's not important. Is that so? Buhara resisted the urge to look back to look at the little girl following behind. Since Lon said it's not important, there's no need to pay attention. The two found a famous local noodle shop and sat down. Well, since the forehead meat of the thunder drill pterosaur is a good ingredient for the noodle soup base, then naturally, the signboard of this ancient city is the noodle shop. The emperor was not short of hungry soldiers, so before the official action, he naturally filled his stomach first. Biscuit behind him did not hide her actions at all. Her image to the outside world is that of a weak little girl who is powerless. If she really uses Zetsu, suppress/null, to hide her breath, it would be abnormal. But when she followed into the noodle shop a few minutes later. Boss, another 10 bowls of noodles. She saw the big bowl next to Buhara, which was piled up like a hill. Even so, he kept slurping noodles into his mouth and yelled to the boss to continue serving. Biscuit. No wonder you gave me the gold coin just to fill my stomach, so they are eating like that. According to their way of eating, they really need to carry gold coins with them. It just so happens that you also come here to fill your stomach. Lon, who had finished his meal, pretended to accidentally discover Biscuit, who followed him in and greeted her. Biscuit, yes, I heard that the noodles in this restaurant are very good, I come to try it. Biscuit didn't have any psychological burden when she lied. And she glanced at Buhara, who was eating, and suddenly had a little appetite. Boss, one for her too, and put it on my bill. Lon smiled and said, it's fate to meet again, I'll treat her this time. Really? Thank you so much. Biscuit showed a surprised expression and then smiled innocently before jumping towards Lon. She sat next to him without treating herself as an outsider. Biscuit. She put her hands on her cheeks and began to introduce herself, Biscuit Kruger. Lon. The two of them introduced themselves to each other. What do you do, Lon? Biscuit blinked her big, watery eyes and began to ask questions. I see you are wearing a suit. Are you a white-collar worker at the company? As she spoke, she seemed to remember something and gently tapped her head. You see, I forgot that before asking others about something, I should first talk about myself. Biscuit Kruger smiled tenderly, I am a beautician. Her Nen ability is called Magical Aesthetician, which gives her the ability to possess a variety of professional beauty techniques. It is a dreamlike ability for women. So, it makes sense to say that she is a beautician. No wonder you are so beautiful, so you take care of yourself so well. Lon smiled and praised Biscuit. Under Biscuit's face was pretending to be shy and embarrassed, her eyes gradually deepened. I am a member of the Mafia. A member of the Mafia. Biscuit cooperated and said in surprise, and then she quickly covered her mouth with an apologetic look. That's not what I meant. Nothing, I said I'm not a good person. Lon picked up the teacup on the table. This is what most people think of the Mafia. They do all kinds of evil, burning, killing, and looting, and Russian also thinks so. Russian. Biscuit pretended to be very concerned and asked a question. Seeing Biscuit naturally integrate acting into life, Lon also started the stage of acting explosion. It was when I was taking shelter from the rain on a heavy rainy day under a roof that I met and got to know Russian, who was also taking shelter from the rain. His eyes showed a look of nostalgia. She said she actually liked rainy days very much. I remember the smile on her face when she said that very clearly. Likewise, she said she also had something she hated. Chapter 98, I am an expert in lying. What was it? Biscuit asked subconsciously. Whether it was true or false, she was gradually attracted by the story. She said she hated gangsters the most. Lon showed a wry smile on his face at the right time. When we first met, I was still wearing the same clothes. She later asked me what I did for a living. I said I was a bank employee. Well, salesmen, bank employees, etc. All wear suits. This is consistent with Biscuit's understanding of some professions. Buhara, next to him, was slurping at the bowls of noodles that had just been served while looking at Lon with some curiosity. He didn't remember Lon saying he had worked in a bank before. But with his mouth filled with noodles, he wisely didn't say anything more. But in fact, I'm already a capable member of a certain mafia family. I couldn't bear to tell her the truth. I was afraid she would leave me, so I chose to hide it, and then I fell in love with her. Scumbag. Biscuit immediately classified this behavior accordingly. In her opinion, all acts of deceiving girls, especially those of deceiving love, are all scumbags. Well, of course, she herself is also a scumbag, and she admits that although he is a scumbag, she really wants to continue listening. Later, we got together and made a family. During the day, I pretended to go to work at the bank normally, to take care of the family's work and business, and came back at night to accompany Russian. We lived happily, and soon after we got married, we had a child named Gimlet. He has a child. Since meeting Lon, Biscuit did not hide her expression for the first time and showed a real look of astonishment. Ahem. Even Buhara, who was eating noodles next to him, choked twice. He had been traveling with Lon for so long and this was the first time he had heard of this. Well, Gimlet is very cute, you can't imagine how lovable he is when he smiles. Lon said, with a happy smile on his face. Biscuit looked at Lan's body and then fell silent. As an expert in hiding her body shape and age, she could tell at a glance that Lan's real age was the same as his appearance. He was not an old monster pretending to be young, but just this age. If everything Lon said was true. She can only say that young people nowadays really know how to play. But later, I suddenly left to fight everywhere. The smile on Lan's face suddenly disappeared, and a sad atmosphere began to spread around him. When I came back, I found that Gimlet, As soon as the choked voice sounded, Lon was in a very injured state, he was infected with a disease and died of a high fever. Russian was heartbroken. She called the bank many times and finally realized that I was not a bank employee and deceived her. She ran out crying. I tried to stop her, but she slapped me in the face because she was so sad. Lan's hand gently stroked a certain place on his cheek. I still can't forget that slap. I wanted to explain it to her later, but I didn't expect. He was completely surrounded by a depressing atmosphere. It was raining heavily that day, and Russian ran out like this. There was a landslide, and she was hit on the head by falling rocks, and became a vegetative without any consciousness. I couldn't express any expression or speak. I could only watch her lying in the hospital, unable to do anything. He acts the sadness of a loving man to the extreme. It's really a very touching story. Biscuit couldn't help but take a deep breath, and then her innocent face instantly switched to a blank expression. But you made those up, right? How can you say it's made up? Lon also changed his mood in a second, and all his sadness and sorrow disappeared. He answered solemnly. This happened to a real man, Senor Pink. It's from One Piece, and it's the personal experience of a real man in the Don Quixote family. So you're still lying? Biscuit crossed her arms. How dare you lie to a cute, weak girl like me? First, you followed me by yourself. Lon raised 3 fingers. Second, I never said that this was a real experience that happened to me. I just used the name Russian to tell the story from the first-person perspective. Faced with the old driver who was ready to show off, he smiled and said, even if it was a lie, I didn't lie to a weak girl. You really saw it. Biscuit had a calm face, not the slightest bit of surprise, otherwise, you wouldn't have told me such a far-fetched story. Do you think I'm so ruthless? Lon spread his hands. Can't I tell my past to a cute and innocent little girl? Heh, I don't think that a guy who can shoot 2 lives casually will let his guard down and tell a stranger everything about his past. Biscuit raised her head and hummed, cute and innocent little girl. She obviously liked Lan's address to her. Sure enough, transmuters are very suspicious of other people. Lon smiled and shook his head. How did you know I was making up a story? First, you can't have a child at your age. Biscuit also followed Lon and stretched out 3 fingers. Second, I don't believe that there are such affectionate people in the mafia. Even if there is a 0.01% possibility, I don't think it will be you. Third. Biscuit paused, and then said with unusual force, I am an expert in lying, and I am still very confident in judging whether the other party is lying. It's really convincing, and there is no reason to refute it. Lon gave her a thumbs up. After 99, you still have other improper thoughts about me. Since you've seen through the lies, what do you want to say now that you've broken through this layer of disguise? I just think your lying skills are too low. Biscuit raised a finger and shook it. If you don't stop it, you might not only say son, but also grandson. Or. Her eyes, which are good at deceiving and seeing through people's hearts, gradually narrowed. You've also seen through my identity a long time ago, and you're deliberately weaving these clumsy lies with a minimum of effort to me. Well, you're right. Lon nodded frankly and admitted, I think we are not the same kind of people, so I said it so clumsily. I want you to hear my perfunctory and alienation so that you know you shouldn't stay here any longer and you have to leave. I thought you could understand what I meant, but you mercilessly showed it. Lon spread his hands and sighed innocently. It makes the current scene a bit awkward. Not at all. A red crossroad appeared on Biscuit's forehead. So you mean to say that I don't know what's good for me, right? I don't. That's what you mean. Biscuit rubbed her fists. You are either a conjurer type, or you are definitely an enhancer type that always thinks things that are particularly complicated are troublesome. She mercilessly retorted with Lan's words just now. Then. How did you see through my disguise? The old driver's narrowed eyes gradually became dangerous. Biscuit Kruger, a double-star stone hunter, a top master of Shinjin Ryu, usually likes to show people the cute appearance of a blonde loli, wearing a red puffy princess dress. Lon pointed out her features and looked her up and down. So, can your features be more obvious? I see. It seems that I have been using the same image and the same dress for too long, and people have noticed it. Biscuit nodded in understanding, and then. What decent guy would specifically remember this kind of thing? She looked at Lon with a subtle look of perversion while staring at him. Do you have other ideas about me, so you remember it so clearly? The look of strict defense made Lon laugh. I just know that there is such a person as you, and then you introduced yourself, so I remembered it. Besides. Lon looked at her current appearance. I have no interest in minors. I like those who are more mature. He commented seriously, of course, don't be too mature. If the age gap is too big, I feel pressured. What are you talking about? The red cross on Biscuit's forehead instantly became bigger and bolder. She is not stupid, and she can completely hear Lan's words that tease her. Young people nowadays are really rude. Before she finished her words, her hand had already slammed down. If it was Killua and Gon were here instead, they would have been beaten and had a bump on their heads. But for Lon now. Bang. After a dull sound, Biscuit's fist was directly rapped by Lan's palm. You still say you're not a pervert? With amazing strength, Biscuit's whole body showed a strong aura, and her blue eyes were always in a state of gyo while staring at Lon. If you are so angry, it's easy to hurt your liver. Lan's hand was not to be outdone, and he also rapped it with a stronger aura with a smile on his face. take good care of your body, senior. When the word senior came out, Biscuit's eyebrows suddenly raised. Just when she was about to increase the output of Nen. Do you want me to help, Lon? Buhara next to him had already finished 10 bowls of noodles and was watching this scene, ready to go at any time. No, this is just a little joke between the senior and me. Lon refused directly. It's not convenient to fight here. The corners of his mouth slowly drew an arc. If Ms. Biscuit wants to test me again, the dark alley just now is a good place. Hee, perverts all look for the same place. Biscuit glared back, and then the nen that surged in her body quickly subsided. Lon also tacitly restrained his temper at the same time. You are really good. Biscuit stared at Lon, then her eyes became hot again. It is an almost flawless rough stone, with such a good foundation, such excellent conditions, and outstanding talent. As she spoke, her tone became bitter. It is also polished so well and carved so brilliantly. Ah, why can't I discover you earlier? Biscuit's crazy tone scares the boss who delivered the noodles. Is this child a little hungry? Before leaving, the noodle boss was kind enough to care about her, but was persuaded by Buhara to leave. Some people, once missed, are gone. Lon kindly comforted her. Think about it from another perspective, it should be a good thing that I can be polished so perfectly, right? Biscuit slurped the noodles and kept silent. If such a good raw stone is carved into a pitted and broken state, wouldn't it be more heartbreaking? That's different. Putting the empty bowl on the table, Biscuit wiped her mouth. From the collision just now, I can feel that you are not studying the martial arts of the Shinjin Ryu. Which school can teach you to this extent? Since Shinjin Ryu was created by Netero, it has always been the world's #1 martial art. Biscuit, who has traveled all over the world for so many years, has also seen a lot of martial arts in the world. And met many powerful martial artists. But she can proudly say that among all the people she has met, no one's teaching skills are as good as hers. Even if there are, their own schools cannot catch up with the comprehensiveness of the Shinjin Ryu. So, being able to teach Lon to be polished to such a crystal-clear state is almost a dead end. She thought of many martial artists and schools in her mind, but none of them matched her name. If I say that I practiced martial arts on my own, do you believe me? Seeing Biscuit's expression of, I've read a lot, don't lie to me, Lon also pointed out directly. The martial arts school I practice is called Kame Senryu, and the person who developed this style is Master Rashi, who's called the god of martial arts. Master Rashi. Biscuit chewed on the name. She had no impression of it at all. But it could also be a mysterious pure martial artist who lived in seclusion in the mountains and was detached from the world. Just like Chairman Netero, who developed the Shinjin Ryu, he spent his life pursuing the ultimate in martial arts. At the age of 46, he felt that his flesh and body had reached their limits, and felt indescribable grace for his martial arts achievements so far. He began to practice 10,000 straight punches a day in the mountains with gratitude. When he was over 50 years old, he only needed 1 hour to throw 10,000 punches and got more time to pray. Until his punch speed exceeded the sound, he went down the mountain and started to challenge the gym. Just one punch convinced the gym leader, who was deeply moved and offered his sign with both hands. A generation of monsters was born. She thinks Master Rashi, who developed the Kame Senryu, is also such a pure martial artist, right? He is not greedy for power and wealth and is not interested in women. He only has martial arts in his heart. Chapter 100, Let me see how powerful your Kame Senryu martial arts. Because of this, he taught such a good apprentice, but he should have some reputation. Martial arts is not something that can be consciously trained behind closed doors. Even a strong person like Netero has to go down the mountain to challenge the gym after he has achieved success in training and experienced more martial arts. But now there is no news. Is there an accident? Well, he is no longer in this world. Seeing her frowning and thinking, Lon also said truthfully. Master Rashi is indeed not in this world. Sorry. After a moment of silence, Biscuit apologized sincerely. It's okay. Lon didn't mind at all. The scene was quiet for a while. It seems that I have disturbed him hastily this time. After a series of verbal and practical attempts, she finally only found out the other party's style and name. After getting nothing else, Biscuit didn't plan to continue to entangle with Lon. She also discovered that this man named Lon, in addition to his impeccable qualifications and current growth and polishing, was extremely difficult and troublesome in other aspects. When encountering such a guy, Biscuit decisively and wisely chose to withdraw in time and did not want to be involved with him anymore. But before that, you should also come for the Thunder Drill Pterosaur, right? She glanced at Bahara and the many empty bowls beside him. A gourmet hunter pursuing the forehead meat. Biscuit was more certain in her heart, it just so happens that my target is the Adam's apple in its throat, and our targets do not conflict. That's not necessarily true. Lon interrupted, I want the forehead meat, but the diamond Adam's apple. He showed a determined smile, I'm also curious. Lon folded his hands and said confidently, so, what if I want them all? Young man, your appetite is a little too big, isn't it? Biscuit's little face returned to calmness again. It is because of the good appetite that I grow like now. Lan's smile did not change. Is that so? The two golden ponytails on Biscuit's head swayed gently, then we will rely on our own abilities. Her sky-blue eyes ignited with fighting spirit. Facing the same prey, let me see how powerful your Kame Senryu martial arts are. Let's see who's better. She was slightly inspired by this unknown martial art that she had never seen before. Biscuit was confident. Apart from anything else, she, as a veteran hunter, had the most say in hunting. However, just when she was full of confidence and was about to show her skills. You don't have to be so excited, I just said if. Lon poured a basin of cold water on her. I said I was just curious about the diamond that grew in Adam's apple, and I didn't say I had to get it. Biscuit's fighting spirit had just begun to burn, but it was extinguished. What did you say? I said we can cooperate. I want the forehead meat, and you take the diamond. How about it? Biscuit was silent, with black lines hanging down from her forehead. Looking at the smile on Lan's face, she suddenly had an unstoppable urge to hit him in the face. You are irritated, ah. At this time, Lan's calm voice came into her ears again. Biscuit woke up instantly. Hey, it seems that I am really a little old. She shook her head with some self-mockery, I'm swayed by a little guy. She also reacted that what Lon had just said was not necessarily true. In this world, especially in the relationships between Nen users, people communicate by always being highly vigilant of each other. Including what the other party says cannot be taken seriously or casually. She made this mistake. I am too lax or a little too conceited. She felt that she had trained her body to the peak, and she could go anywhere in the world by relying on these foundations. She became a little lazy. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been eliminated from the dodgeball game by Razor because her clothes had a hole in them. She herself closed her eyes at that time and said, too careless. If she were younger, she should have been on high alert. Not to mention being hit, this kind of situation that might be triggered by some weird thoughts would never happen. She even has to carefully analyze what others say word by word to see if it is true or false. And what kind of results each situation corresponds to. It may be tiring to do this, but it can make her live longer. The hunters and partners who were in the same batch as her back then are rarely seen now. So, the trap of words is sometimes quite scary. Lan's fingers tapped the table lightly. Well, you don't need to teach me this. The blonde lowly instantly gathered her thoughts, and after remembering everything that happened today, she began to be arrogant again. You should know that I am your senior. Yes, senior, then our cooperation. I am not sure what you said is true, nor can I be sure it is false, so about the cooperation. Biscuit showed a playful smile, we'll talk about it when we meet prey. Okay. Lon didn't care, but I'll remind you. Maybe I can help you at a critical moment in the future. Shouldn't you owe me a favor? What do you want to do? Biscuit was alert again, you really have other improper ideas about me? No. Lon denied it decisively. He patted Bahara, who had been silent beside him, are you full? Ah, yeah. Bahara was startled at first, then hesitated and nodded. He could say that he had just sat for a while and was a little hungry again. But when he thought about hunting the Thunder Drill Pterosaur next, he could bear it. That's perfect, we've finished eating too. Lon smiled at Biscuit, who looked defensive and snapped his fingers, then I'll trouble you to pay for today's meal. After that, he walked out without caring whether Biscuit was willing or not. Bahara hurriedly followed, and his huge body rumbled southwest loudly that the street could hardly bear it. Biscuit listened to the movement outside, and a smile appeared on her alert face. "Really, you don't want to have anything to do with me?"